The smell of roasting turkey filled the Davidson family estate as I carefully arranged my contribution to Thanksgiving dinner, a simple pumpkin pie I'd made from scratch. My hands were steady despite the condescending looks from my husband's family, who'd gathered in their usual formation around the marble kitchen island, ready for their annual performance of Let's Mock Sophia's life choices. Still playing with your little computers? My brother-in-law Richard laughed, swirling his third glass of expensive bourbon. When are you going to get a real job like the rest of us? I smiled politely, the same practiced smile I'd perfected over 7 years of marriage to James. Richard was the family's golden boy, a corporate lawyer who never missed an opportunity to remind everyone about his partnership at Fletcher Associates. His wife, Patricia, nodded along, her diamond tennis bracelet catching the light as she gestured dismissively toward me. It's called cybersecurity, I said quietly, returning to my pie, and it's not really playing. Oh, we know. My mother-in-law Margaret interrupted, waving her hand like she was swatting away a fly. You fix people's passwords and install antivirus software. Very practical. James, my husband, stood by the window checking his phone, offering no defense. He'd long ago learned that challenging his family's narrative about my cute little tech hobby only led to longer lectures about family expectations and social standing. At least she's trying. My sister-in-law Catherine chimed in with false sympathy. Not everyone can be a surgeon. She never missed a chance to mention her medical degree, even when passing the salt. Or a partner at a law firm, Richard added. Or marry one, Patricia smirked, touching Richard's arm. The conversation was following its usual script. Next would come the suggestions about proper careers, followed by hints about when James and I would have children, because surely that would give me something meaningful to do with my time. I was saved from the next round by my father-in-law Charles, who entered carrying another bottle of wine. Ladies, gentlemen, shall we move to the dining room? The turkey should be ready soon. As everyone filed out, I heard the distinct sound of heavy vehicles approaching. The Davidson estate was located on a private road, and unexpected visitors were rare, especially on Thanksgiving. Through the kitchen window, I watched 3 black SUVs with government plates pull up the circular driveway. My phone buzzed. A message from General Morrison, ETA 2 minutes. Apologies for the holiday interruption. National security doesn't take days off. I typed back quickly, understood. I'll be ready. Sophia, Margaret's voice carried from the dining room, stop dawdling with your phone. It's family time. I took a deep breath and walked to the dining room, where everyone was settling into their assigned seats. The same seats we'd had for 7 years, with me at the far end, between the children's table and the kitchen door, convenient for fetching things, as Margaret liked to say. Before we sit, I said, remaining standing, I should mention I'll need to leave shortly. Richard snorted. What? Someone's Wi-Fi emergency? Can't they restart their router themselves? The doorbell rang, 3 precise chimes that seemed to echo through the massive house. I'll get it, I said, but Charles was already moving toward the foyer, muttering about solicitors working on holidays. I heard his voice change from irritation to confusion. Yes, she's here, right this way. 3 figures in dark suits entered the dining room with Charles trailing behind, looking stunned. The lead agent, a woman with steel gray hair and sharp eyes, scanned the room before focusing on me. Ms. Davidson? I'm Agent Sarah Chen from the Department of Defense. The Pentagon is ready for your briefing. The secretary is waiting. The room went absolutely silent. Richard's bourbon glass stopped halfway to his lips. Margaret's mouth opened and closed like a fish out of water. Briefing? James finally found his voice. What briefing? Agent Chen's expression didn't change. That's classified, sir. Ms. Davidson, we need to leave immediately. The situation in Beijing has escalated. I nodded, already mentally shifting into work mode. I'll need 5 minutes to grab my equipment. Beijing? Catherine whispered. What situation? I'm sorry, I said, addressing the room but looking at James. I can't discuss it. National security protocols. Richard let out a laugh that sounded more like a cough. This is a joke, right? Sophia doesn't, she fixes computers. Agent Chen turned her cool gaze on him. Ms. Davidson is one of the country's leading experts in cyber warfare and international digital infrastructure protection. She's been consulting with us for 3 years. 3 years? James stood up, his face a mixture of confusion and something that might have been hurt. Sophia? I met his eyes. You never asked what I actually did. None of you did, you just assumed. The equipment. Ms. Davidson? Agent Chen prompted. In my car, I replied, the briefcase in the trunk. She nodded to one of the other agents, who immediately left, presumably to retrieve it. Patricia found her voice. But she makes $50,000 a year. She drives a Honda. Actually, I said, pulling on my coat, I charge the Department of Defense $5,000 per hour for emergency consultations. And I like my Honda. It's reliable. The turkey chose that moment to timer ding in the kitchen, but nobody moved. $5,000 an hour? Richard's voice cracked. The corporate lawyer who loved to brag about his $500 hourly rate looked physically ill. The Beijing situation involves a potential breach of Allied defense networks, Agent Chen continued, clearly growing impatient. Ms. Davidson designed the protective protocols. She's the only one who can implement the countermeasures. Margaret sank into her chair. Protective protocols? I created an AI-driven defense system for NATO's digital infrastructure, I explained, checking my phone as updates flooded in. Someone's attempting to breach it. If they succeed, they'll have access to classified military communications across 30 countries. Your briefcase, ma'am, the agent returned, handing me the titanium case that contained my custom-built portable workstation. Thank you. I turned back to the stunned family. I'm sorry about dinner. This shouldn't take more than 8 or 9 hours. Save me some pie? 8 or 9 hours? James stepped forward. Sophia, what is happening? What haven't you told me? I paused at the doorway, finally letting 7 years of frustration color my voice. I told you, James, every time I tried to explain my work, you'd pat my hand and change the subject. When I got commended by the Pentagon last year, you said that's nice, honey, and asked if I could debug your mother's iPad. When I testified before Congress about cybersecurity threats, you were too busy to watch because Richard had a golf tournament. You testified before Congress? Charles whispered. Closed session. Senate Intelligence Committee. I softened my tone slightly. I have the transcripts in my office at home. Redacted. Of course. Agent Chen touched her earpiece. Ma'am, the secretary is asking for an ETA. Tell him 15 minutes. I looked around the room one last time. My husband's family, who'd spent 7 years treating me like the help, finally seeing me for the first time. James, we'll talk when I get home. Really talk. Richard, apparently unable to process his world realigning, blurted out. But you can't just leave. It's Thanksgiving. Actually, Agent Chen interjected with the slightest hint of amusement. When national security is at stake, she can. She has alpha-level clearance. She could commandeer this entire house if necessary. That's when the turkey slid off Richard's plate, hitting the Persian rug with a wet thud. He didn't even notice. As I walked toward the door, Margaret called out weakly, When will you be back? When Beijing stops trying to start World War III, I replied, hopefully before the pie gets cold. The last thing I heard as the agents escorted me to the waiting SUV was Catherine's stunned voice. Did she just say World War III? The lead SUV's interior was a mobile command center, screens flickering with real-time data from around the globe. Agent Chen handed me a secure tablet as we pulled away from the estate. The breach attempt started 40 minutes ago, she briefed me. They're using a variant of the Shadowbyte code, but modified. Your prediction algorithms caught it, but barely. I was already analyzing the attack patterns. It's not Shadowbyte. It's something new. See these recursive loops? Someone's been studying our defenses. My fingers flew across the tablet, pulling up defensive protocols I designed but hoped never to use. We need to implement Cerberus immediately. The secretary wants options, Chen said. The secretary will get one option. Let me work. I plugged my briefcase system into the SUV's network, and get me a direct line to Admiral Foster at Cyber Command. If this is what I think it is, we have maybe 90 minutes before they crack the outer shell. As we sped toward the regional command center, I thought about the family I'd left behind, sitting in their dining room with cooling food and shattered assumptions. Part of me felt guilty for the dramatic exit, but a larger part felt free. 7 years of Sophia and her little computer hobby. 7 years of being excluded from conversations about important careers. 7 years of smiling while they dismissed my work as playing with passwords. My phone buzzed. A text from James. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Please be safe. We need to talk when you get home. Another from Richard. I didn't know. None of us knew. And surprisingly, one from Margaret. The news just interrupted programming. They're saying someone saved NATO. Was that you? I turned off the personal phone and focused on the screens showing cascading attack vectors across global defense networks. Someone in Beijing was trying to reshape the world's power structure with code and algorithms. They'd studied our defenses for months, maybe years. waiting for the perfect moment to strike. They'd chosen Thanksgiving, assuming American response would be slow. They hadn't counted on me already being angry and ready to fight. "Ma'am?" Agent Chen noticed my expression. "Everything all right?" "Perfect," I said, as my fingers danced across keyboards and the first of my countermeasures deployed. "Let's save the world, I have pie waiting." By the time we reached the command center, I'd already isolated the breach attempt and began implementing countermeasures. The attack was sophisticated, whoever designed it had intimate knowledge of our defense protocols. That narrowed the suspects considerably. Inside the command center, General Morrison waited with his staff. The main screen showed a world map lit up like a Christmas tree, red dots indicating attempted breaches across Allied networks. "Davidson," he greeted me with visible relief. "Thank God, how bad is it?" "Bad, but manageable," I replied, taking my position at the primary workstation. "They're not trying to breach the entire network. This is targeted, they're after something specific." "What?" I pulled up the attack algorithms, highlighting the pattern everyone else had missed. "The submarine communication protocols. They're trying to access our submarine fleet positions." The room went cold. Nuclear submarines were the ultimate stealth weapons, their locations the most closely guarded secrets in military intelligence. "Can they do it?" Morrison asked quietly. "Not if I can help it." I initiated Cerberus, my most aggressive defensive protocol. "But General, this isn't random. Someone leaked our infrastructure map. This attack knows exactly where to hit." The next 4 hours were a blur of code, countermeasures, and digital warfare. Every time I blocked an attack vector, 3 more appeared. Whoever was on the other side was good, very good. But they'd made one mistake: they'd studied our old defenses, not anticipating the upgrades I'd implemented just 2 weeks ago. "Got you," I whispered, finally identifying the source code signature. My fingers flew across the keyboard, building a cage of algorithms around the attacker's position. "General, I've isolated their access point. Beijing, just as we suspected, but routed through Prague and Johannesburg first." "Can you trace the actual operator?" "Already did. I pulled up the data, and you're not going to like it. The code signature matches Chen Wei. He used to work for us. Cyber Command, left 2 years ago." Morrison's face darkened. "I remember him. Said he could make more money in private sector. Looks like he found a different employer." I initiated the final lockdown sequence. "But here's the good news. I just trapped him in his own code. He can't withdraw without revealing his entire network." "Do it." I executed the trap. Within seconds, data flooded our screens, not just the current attack, but months of preparation, financial transfers, and most importantly, the names of everyone involved. "Sir," one of the analysts called out, "State Department is going to want to see this. We've got government officials, tech executives. This is huge." I leaned back in my chair for the first time in hours, exhaustion hitting me like a wave. "The submarine protocols are secure. I patched the vulnerabilities and added new encryption layers. It'll take them years to even attempt another breach." Morrison placed a hand on my shoulder. "Outstanding work, Davidson. The president will want to thank you personally. Maybe after Thanksgiving dinner?" I managed a tired smile. "I did promise to be home for pie." He chuckled. "Agent Chen will drive you back. And Davidson, next time your in-laws give you grief about your hobby, you have my permission to tell them exactly what you do." "They know now," I said, gathering my equipment. That might have been the most shocking part of their day. The ride back was quieter, dawn breaking over the horizon as we approached the Davidson estate. The other SUVs had stayed behind, but Chen insisted on escorting me to the door. "Thank you," I told her as we pulled up, "for the dramatic entrance. You didn't have to mention the clearance level." She smiled, the first human expression I'd seen from her. "My sister-in-law is a corporate lawyer too. I understand the frustration." The house was quiet as I entered, but not empty. James sat in the living room, still in his Thanksgiving clothes, surrounded by tablets and printouts. He looked up as I came in, his face a mixture of awe and shame. "I've been reading," he said quietly, "everything I could find. The congressional testimony, the Pentagon commendations, the papers you've published. Sophia, I'm an idiot." I sat beside him, exhaustion making me more honest than usual. "You're not an idiot. You just never saw me. None of you did." "Mom's been crying," he admitted. "Richard threw up, twice. Catherine called her hospital to verify that cybersecurity experts can really make that much money. And my father, he's been in his study reading about cyber warfare for hours." "And you?" He took my hand. "I'm trying to understand how I missed this. How I lived with you for 7 years and never realized I was married to a genius who protects our country. You never asked, I said simply. Every time I tried to tell you, someone would interrupt with a story about their real job, and you'd let them. I know, God, I know. He squeezed my hand. I failed you, we all did, but if you'll let me, I'd like to actually know you now, the real you. I was too tired to have this conversation properly, but something in his voice gave me hope. The real me needs sleep. And pie, is there any left? Mom saved you 3 pieces, and the entire turkey. No one had much appetite after you left. He paused. Sophia, that thing about World War III. Prevented, I assured him. For now, that's what I do, James. I prevent digital wars that could become real wars. I protect infrastructure that keeps millions safe. I'm not playing with computers, I'm playing chess with people who want to destroy our way of life. He nodded slowly. And you're winning? So far. I stood, heading for the kitchen and that promised pie, but it's exhausting doing it while people pat me on the head and ask when I'm getting a real job. That stops now, he said firmly. No more condescension, no more assumptions. I want to know everything, what you do, how you do it, why you chose this career, everything. I found the pie in the refrigerator, along with a note from Margaret. I'm sorry, we're all sorry, please forgive us, Mom. It's a start, I told James, who'd followed me into the kitchen. But respect isn't just about knowing what I do, it's about valuing who I am. I know, and I want to learn. He watched as I cut a generous slice of pie. Can I ask one thing? Why didn't you tell us sooner? Why let us think? I took a bite of pie, considering my answer, because I shouldn't have had to prove my worth with clearance levels and hourly rates. My work should have mattered because it mattered to me, not because it impresses others. He absorbed that quietly while I ate. Finally, he asked, what happens now? Now? I smiled tiredly. Now I finish this pie, sleep for 12 hours, and tomorrow we have that talk, the real one, where you listen instead of assuming, where your family sees me as a person, not just an extension of you. And if they can't? I met his eyes directly. Then we have bigger problems than my job title. The sun was fully up now, painting the kitchen golden. Somewhere in Beijing, Chen Wei was being arrested. Somewhere in Washington, officials were implementing my recommendations. And here in this kitchen, my husband was finally seeing me. It wasn't the Thanksgiving any of us had planned, but maybe it was the one we needed. James, I said as he walked me to our bedroom. Yeah? Next year, I'm hosting Thanksgiving, and if anyone makes one comment about my hobby, I'm showing them the classified files. He laughed, the tension finally breaking. Deal, though after today, I don't think anyone will ever underestimate you again. As I finally crawled into bed, I thought about Richard's dropped turkey, Margaret's tears, and Catherine's frantic Googling. They'd learned in one dramatic moment what they could have known all along if they'd just asked, just listened, just seen me as more than James's wife who plays with computers. My phone buzzed one last time. General Morrison, rest up. The president wants to meet Monday. And Davidson? Well done. I turned off the phone and closed my eyes. Somewhere, my algorithms were still protecting the world, but for now, I was just Sophia Davidson, tired woman who'd saved the world and made it home for pie. And that was enough.
I woke up to the sound of a jackhammer tearing into my foundation, not a metaphor, an actual jackhammer, rattling through the bones of my house like it was trying to shake me out of bed. My leg, still pinned in a brace from the accident, throbbed in protest as I sat up too fast. I grabbed my crutches and hobbled to the window, yanking the curtain back. There in the backyard I'd spent months restoring, where I'd planted my fiancé's favorite hydrangeas, where we'd planned to build a small greenhouse, stood 3 men in hard hats and neon vests. One of them waved at me like we were old friends. I didn't wave back. My name's Christine. I'm 34, recovering from a car accident that should have killed me, and apparently I'm also the last person to know I'm having an extension built onto my house. I made it down the stairs one painful step at a time, each thud of the jackhammer syncing with my heartbeat. By the time I got to the back door, I was sweating and furious. "Hey!" I shouted. The guy holding the jackhammer shut it off. The silence was deafening. "You can't just tear up my yard. Who told you to start this?" He looked confused. Dawson said you were out of commission, but everything was approved." I blinked. "Dawson? As in my sister's husband? Yeah, he and your folks signed off, said it was all family. I stared at him. Get off my property, now. He hesitated. I mean, we already poured, now. He raised his hands and nodded, motioning to the others. As they packed up, I limped back inside, heart pounding. I called my mom first. Oh, honey, she said, like I was overreacting to a surprise birthday party. It's just a little extension. Sophie said you'd love it once it's done. Sophie doesn't live here, Mom. I do, and no one asked me. Well, you've been in recovery, and your dad and I. You don't own the house. You gave us power of attorney while you were in the hospital, she said gently. You thought wrong. I hung up. My hands were shaking so badly I nearly dropped my phone. I had trusted them. I gave them temporary control because I couldn't walk, couldn't think straight, couldn't even feed myself without help. And this is what they did? I called Sophie next. She didn't pick up, of course. An hour later, she showed up with Dawson, both of them wearing matching smug smiles, like they were walking into a ribbon-cutting ceremony. Hey, sis, Sophie chirped, leaning in for a hug I didn't return. Isn't it exciting? We're finally doing it. Doing what? I asked, leaning on my crutch like a weapon. The family wing? Dawson said, like it was obvious. Guest suite, office space, maybe a nursery down the line. I blinked. A nursery? Just thinking ahead, Sophie said quickly. You've been through so much, and you thought you'd move in. She smiled, but her eyes flickered. Just until you're back on your feet, we can help with the house, the bills. I don't need help. I need you to leave. Dawson laughed like I'd told a joke. Chris, come on. This place is huge. You don't even use half of it. It's mine. Technically, he said, your parents had legal authority when they approved the plans. Everything's signed and sealed. I folded my arms. Show me. He hesitated. I walked, well hobbled, past them to the dining table where a stack of papers sat in a neat manila folder. Sophie tried to block me, but I shoved past her, and there it was, a building permit, approved, with my name, my signature. Except I never signed it. I held it up. This is a forgery. Sophie's face went pale. No, it's not. Dad said you were okay with it. Did I sign this? She didn't answer. Dawson stepped forward. Look, we can talk about this later. You're upset and... Get out. Christine, out now. They left, but not before Dawson muttered, ungrateful, under his breath. I stood there, gripping the forged permit like it was a loaded gun. The room was spinning, or maybe that was just the pain meds wearing off. I sat down slowly, the brace on my legs stiff and unforgiving. I looked around the room, the house I grew up in, the one I bought back after Mom and Dad downsized, the one I poured every spare dollar into after losing the only man who ever truly understood me. The house I bled for, cried in, rebuilt from the studs up. And they thought they could just take it? I looked down at the signature again. The loops in the C were wrong. The tail of the E didn't curl. It wasn't just a lie. It was sloppy. And that's when I felt it. Not anger, not even betrayal, cold, clean rage. If they wanted a war, they just declared it. And I don't lose wars. The following Saturday, I woke up to the sound of children screaming. Not in danger, just the high-pitched chaos of a birthday party. I dragged myself to the window. Balloons, a rented bounce house, folding tables lined with cupcakes and glittery paper plates. My backyard looked like a Pinterest board threw up on it. I hadn't agreed to any of this. I crutched my way downstairs, opened the back door, and was nearly trampled by a kid in a Spider-Man costume. I turned the corner and found Sophie in my patio chair, sipping sangria like she was the damn hostess of the year. Sophie! She looked up all fake surprise. Oh, you're up! Isn't this fun? It's for Dawson's niece. Her mom had to cancel last minute, so we offered to host. In my yard? Well, it's our yard now, kind of, she said, laughing like that would make it cute. I didn't laugh. Where's Dawson? She pointed toward the grill where Dawson was flipping burgers and talking to two guys in suits. One of them handed him a business card. I limped over. Dawson! He turned, still holding the spatula. Hey, Christine, want a burger? Are you having a business meeting at a child's birthday party? He shrugged. Networking. It's all about relationships. On my property. He smirked. Technically, our property. We're investing in the future here. I stared at him. You're not even trying to hide it anymore, are you? Hide what? I didn't answer. I just turned, went back inside, and locked the door behind me. I called Tate. Tell me you're still practicing real estate law, I said the second he picked up. Christine, wow, it's been a while. Yeah, and it's about to get ugly. I told him everything. Well, the short version, the forged signature, the construction, the sudden invasion of my house like it was a timeshare. He whistled. You didn't sign anything? No verbal agreement? Nothing. I was on morphine when they filed the paperwork. I couldn't even hold a pen. Then it's fraud. Let me come by tomorrow. Bring the documents. I exhaled for the first time all day. Thanks, Tate. That night I stayed upstairs while the party dragged on. I watched the guests leave with their party favors and half-eaten cupcakes. I watched Sophie and Dawson laugh like they owned the place. And I thought about all the years I kept my head down. The quiet holidays where Sophie got the big gifts and I got the practical ones. The way Mom always said, your sister just needs a little more help right now. Like that was a permanent excuse for everything. I wasn't going to be quiet anymore. The next day, Tate showed up with a laptop, a legal pad, and a look that said he meant business. Let me see the deed, he said, sitting at my kitchen table. I handed it over. He scanned it, tapping his pen against the table. Okay, so your parents had temporary power of attorney while you were incapacitated, but it expired the moment you regained legal capacity. That was, what, 3 months ago? 4. Right, and they approved construction after that? Yep. Then none of this holds. He flipped to the back page. Also, interesting. What? He pointed to a clause I'd never noticed. Any structure permanently attached to the original dwelling triggers a reassessment of the property. That means taxes, insurance, potentially even zoning penalties depending on how they filed. I blinked. So they're on the hook for all of that? If they're listed as co-applicants, absolutely. I smiled. Good. Later that afternoon, Wayne, the contractor, showed up to collect some tools. I met him outside. Hey, I said, got a minute? He hesitated, then nodded. Sure. You've been doing this for a while, right? 20 years. Ever had a client forge a homeowner's signature? He looked at me carefully. That what happened here? I didn't answer. He sighed. I had a feeling. You didn't seem thrilled when I saw you the first time. I wasn't. He rubbed the back of his neck. Look, I was told you were recovering and that everything was cleared. I didn't think to question it. You didn't see the red flags? I did, but I also saw the check clear. I nodded slowly. Fair enough. He looked around, lowered his voice. You didn't sign off on those blueprints, did you? Nope. He nodded. Then you got a case. I looked him in the eye. Would you be willing to say that officially? He hesitated. If it comes to that, yeah, I will. I held out my hand. He shook it. That night, I sat at the kitchen table with Tate, going over every document line by line. Sophie and Dawson were out, probably schmoozing at some wine bar or pretending to be the power couple of the neighborhood. I didn't care. Let them play house. Because while they were busy planning their fantasy life, I was building something else, a case. And I was going to make sure it hit them where it hurt most. Sophie was in the kitchen when I came downstairs the next morning, barefoot, wearing one of my old college sweatshirts like it belonged to her. She was stirring oat milk into her coffee, humming to herself. I opened the fridge. Half my groceries were gone. Again. "Did you eat the leftovers from last night?" I asked. She didn't even turn around. "Oh, yeah, Dawson was starving after his showing. We figured you wouldn't mind." I shut the fridge a little harder than necessary. "Next time, ask." She finally looked at me. "You're so tense lately. You should be happy the house is finally coming together." I grabbed a bottle of water. "Whose house?" She smiled. "Ours." I walked away before I said something unforgivable. Later that day, Dawson cornered me in the hallway. He was wearing a blazer and holding a latte like he was about to film a commercial for himself. "Quick question," he said. "Do you still have that spare key to the garage? I want to show a client the layout." "No." He blinked. "No, you don't have it." Or "No, I can't use it." I stared at him. "No, you can't use it." He chuckled like I was being cute. "Christine, you're being difficult." "No, I'm being the owner of this house." He leaned in slightly. "You don't want to make this hostile. We're family." I stepped back. "Then stop acting like a squatter." That night I was in my room when I heard them laughing downstairs, loud like they wanted me to hear. I opened the group chat with Tate and sent him a photo of the new blueprint I'd found stuffed in a drawer in the living room. He replied instantly, "This is gold. I'll explain tomorrow." The next morning, Tate showed up with coffee and a grin I hadn't seen since college. "Okay," he said, spreading out the blueprint on the table. "Here's what they didn't realize. This addition, it's structurally connected to the main house. That means under the county code, the entire property is now subject to reassessment." "Meaning?" "Meaning your property taxes are about to triple." I blinked. "And I'm the only name on the deed." "Exactly." I leaned back in my chair. "So they built their dream wing, and I get the bill." "Unless," he said, tapping the blueprint, "we make sure the county knows who initiated the construction." I smiled. "Let's do it." That afternoon, I printed a fresh copy of the new tax assessment. It had arrived in the mail that morning, thick and official looking. I stuck a yellow post-it on top. "Looks like your generosity has a price tag." I left it on the kitchen counter. By dinner, Sophie was pacing the living room, holding the letter like it might catch fire. "This has to be a mistake," she said. "Christine, did you see this?" I did. "It says the taxes are going up by, what, 15 grand a year?" 17, I said, sipping my tea. Dawson stormed in, waving the paper. "Why is this under your name? We all live here." "Because I own the house." He pointed at me. "You're not going to stick us with this. We added value." "You added debt." Sophie's voice cracked. "We don't have that kind of money." I looked at her. "Then maybe you shouldn't have built something you couldn't afford." Dawson stepped closer. "You think this is funny?" "No," I said. "I think it's legal." He opened his mouth, but I held up my phone. "By the way, I recorded this conversation, just in case you try to say you had my consent." His jaw clenched. "You're bluffing." I hit play, my voice clear. "You didn't ask me. You forged my name." Sophie's voice panicked. "We thought you'd be okay with it. Dad said." I paused it. "Still bluffing?" They stared at me like I'd grown horns. "We can fix this," Sophie said quickly. "We'll talk to the board, maybe refinance." "No," I said. "You won't?" I reached into my bag and handed Dawson a manila envelope. He opened it. His face went white. "What is this?" he asked. "Cease and desist," I said, Effective immediately. You're no longer allowed to use any part of this house for business purposes. That includes client meetings, mail, signage, and marketing materials. You're kicking us out? Not yet, but keep pushing. Sophie looked like she might cry. Christine, please, we're family. I looked at her, really looked at her, the entitled tilt of her chin, the way she clutched Dawson's arm like a lifeline. You stopped being family when you stole from me, I said. They left the room in silence. I stood there, alone, in the house I'd rebuilt. My legs still ached. My heart still had cracks. But for the first time in months, I felt steady. The war had started, and I was just getting warmed up. 3 days later, Sophie left a box of pastries on the kitchen counter like it was a peace offering. I didn't touch them. Instead, I mailed her something of my own, a pristine copy of the new property tax bill, folded neatly inside a bright pink envelope. On top, a yellow post-it. Looks like your generosity has a price tag. By noon, she was banging on my bedroom door. Christine, can we talk, please? I opened the door just enough to see her face. She looked like she hadn't slept. Her mascara was smudged and her voice had that fake sweet edge she used when she wanted something. We didn't know it would affect your taxes, she said. You didn't know it would affect my taxes because you didn't bother to ask. We thought it would be fine. Dawson says a lot of things. She flinched. We can figure this out. Maybe we can split it? I raised an eyebrow. Split the taxes on a house you don't own? She blinked, mouth open, nothing coming out. Didn't think so, I said, and shut the door. That night, Dawson tried a different approach. He cornered me in the driveway as I was getting the mail. Listen, he said, arms crossed, voice low. This doesn't have to get messy. Too late. He stepped closer. You're not thinking long term. We put a lot into this place. Sweat equity, Christine. If you go nuclear, we both lose. No, I said, holding up the envelope of bills. You lose. I get my house back. His jaw tightened. You're really going to do this? I smiled. Already started. He laughed, bitter. You're not going to win. You don't know how this works. I leaned in, voice calm. I know enough to record this conversation, too. He stepped back. Later that week, Tate came by with a flash drive and a grin. I cleaned up the audio, he said. Crystal clear. Sophie admits to forging your name. Dawson admits to using the house for business without your permission. Good, I said. Let's make it official. We spent the next 2 hours filing complaints with the housing board and the local licensing office. Tate handled the legal jargon. I just provided the receipts, emails, texts, photos, voice memos. By Friday, Dawson's real estate license was under review. Saturday, Sophie's phone started blowing up. I could hear it buzzing through the walls. She was pacing the hallway, whispering frantically. Her Instagram was suddenly wiped clean. No more curated shots of the family home or the Price Shepherd lifestyle. Just a blank profile and one cryptic story. Taking a break to focus on what really matters. Please. The next morning, I filed a petition to partition the property. Tate explained it like this. You're requesting the court to formally separate the addition from the main dwelling. If approved, they'll be responsible for their own taxes, utilities, and insurance. And if it's denied, then we proceed with eviction. I nodded. Do it. That night, Dawson knocked on my door. No smile, no blazer, just a man who realized the walls were closing in. We'll buy you out, he said. I laughed. Buy me out of my own house? You're being unreasonable. No, I said, stepping into the hallway. You built a fantasy on someone else's foundation, and now it's crumbling. Sophie appeared behind him, arms folded, eyes red. Please, she said, we have nowhere else to go. Then you shouldn't have burned the only bridge you had? Dawson's voice dropped. You think you're so smart, but you're petty, bitter, alone. I didn't flinch. And you're trespassing. He scoffed. You're going to regret this. I smiled. Eviction notice goes out Monday. He stared at me like he was trying to decide whether to fight or fold. He folded. They went back to their side of the house, quiet for once. I stood there in the hallway, the silence ringing louder than their shouting ever had. I wasn't just taking back my house, I was taking back everything they thought they could steal, and I wasn't done yet. The knock came just after 10 a.m. I opened the door to find a man in a navy windbreaker holding a clipboard. Christine? He asked. Yes? County Housing Board. We received your complaint. I'm here to inspect the addition. I stepped aside. Be my guest. 10 minutes later, he was standing in the middle of what Sophie and Dawson had been calling the family wing, shaking his head. Who filed the construction permits? He asked. My parents under power of attorney, but it was expired, and the signature on the approval? Forged. He looked up. You have proof? I handed him a folder, photos, dates, the audio files Tate had cleaned up. He flipped through it, expression darkening. This is a mess, he muttered. Tell me about it. He took a few more photos, measured a couple of walls, and left with a tight nod. You'll hear from us soon. Sophie and Dawson came home 2 hours later. I was on the porch sipping iced tea, waiting. What's with the county car outside? Dawson asked. Inspection, I said. Sophie's face drained. What kind of inspection? The kind that determines whether your little project is legal. You called the board? She snapped. No, I said. I filed a formal complaint. There's a difference. Dawson stepped forward, trying to loom. You're playing dirty. No, I said calmly. I'm playing smart. That night Tate called. They're moving fast, he said. The board's opening a case. They flagged multiple violations, zoning, permit fraud, misuse of residential space. Good. And Dawson's license? Suspended pending investigation. I smiled. Perfect. The next morning, Sophie was crying in the kitchen. I walked in to grab my coffee and found her hunched over her phone. They're tagging me in everything, she said, not even looking up. People are saying I'm a scammer, a leech. I poured my coffee. Maybe don't steal next time. She looked up, eyes puffy. You're enjoying this. No, I said, but I'm not apologizing for it either. Later that week, the petition to partition the property was approved. I served them the paperwork myself. Sophie stared at the envelope like it was a death sentence. What does this mean? It means your part of the house is now legally separate. You're responsible for your own taxes, insurance, utilities. Dawson scoffed. That's ridiculous. We don't even have our own meter. Then I suggest you get one. Fast. He crumpled the paper in his fist. You're going to regret this. No, I said. You are. 2 days later, I came home to find Dawson pacing the driveway, phone pressed to his ear. I don't care what it takes. Get me out of this, he snapped. No, I didn't know the permits were invalid. What do you mean that's my responsibility? He saw me and turned away, lowering his voice. I walked past him without a word. That night, Tate and I sat on the porch watching the sun dip behind the trees. They're going to lose everything, he said. I know. You okay with that? I thought about it. I didn't start this. I just finished it. The following Monday, the court sent the final notice. Sophie and Dawson had 30 days to vacate the property. The extension was deemed unauthorized and subject to removal unless brought into compliance, which would cost more than they could afford. Dawson tried one last time. He showed up at my door with a check in hand. Name your price, he said. I looked at the check. Blank. Arrogant. I handed it back. Eviction stands. He stared at me, jaw twitching. You don't even need the space. But I need my peace. He left without another word. A week later, my parents called a family meeting. We just want to talk, Mom said. Clear the air. I didn't want to go, but I did. We met at their house. Sophie and Dawson were already there, sitting stiffly on the couch. Mom looked nervous. Dad looked tired. I think we've all made mistakes, Mom began. I cut her off. This isn't about mistakes. It's about choices. Dad cleared his throat. Dawson was trying to help. He had a vision. He forged my signature. Sophie spoke up. We didn't mean to hurt you. You didn't care if you did. Mom reached for my hand. We're still a family. I pulled away. No, we're not. Not when you let them take over my house. Not when you ignored me. Not when you chose convenience over truth. Sophie stood up, voice shaking. You're punishing everyone because you're bitter and alone. I stood too. No, I'm protecting myself. Something you've never had to do. She slapped me. It wasn't hard. It was desperate. I didn't flinch. I just smiled. There she is. Dad looked horrified. Mom gasped. I turned and walked out. I didn't look back. The war was over, and I'd won. The moving truck showed up on a Thursday morning. I watched from the porch as Dawson barked orders at the two guys he'd probably hired off Craigslist. Sophie stood off to the side, arms crossed, sunglasses hiding her swollen eyes. They didn't speak to me. They didn't even look my way. I didn't offer to help. I just sipped my coffee and let the sound of boxes slamming into the truck be my music. By noon, the extension was empty. The walls echoed. The dream wing was now just drywall and regret. Wayne showed up around 2. You ready? He asked. I nodded. Let's do it. He walked the perimeter with a clipboard, measuring and marking. The court order says we can remove everything added after the permit was filed. That includes the deck, the second entrance, and the utility hookups. Good. He looked up at me. You sure you want to go through with this? I'm sure. He nodded. All right. We'll start demolition tomorrow. Sophie came back around 4, alone. She didn't knock, just walked right in like she still lived here. I met her in the hallway. You forgot something? I asked. She held out a small box. Inside was a photo of us as kids. Matching dresses, gap-toothed smiles, holding hands in front of the fireplace. I thought maybe you'd want it, she said. I took the box and set it on the table. Thanks. She looked around like she was seeing the house for the first time. We really messed this up. I didn't answer. I thought we were building something, she said. I didn't realize we were burning everything down. I leaned against the wall. You didn't care who got hurt. That's the difference. I was scared, she said. We were drowning in debt. Dawson kept saying this would save us. And you believed him? She nodded. I wanted to believe someone, anyone. I didn't think you'd fight back. I looked at her. That's your problem. You never thought I'd stand up. She wiped her eyes. Mom and Dad are mad at you. I know. They say you're tearing the family apart. I shrugged. Then maybe it wasn't much of a family to begin with. She didn't argue. Before she left, she turned at the door. If I ever have kids, I hope they grow up to be more like you. I didn't know what to say to that, so I said nothing. The next day, the demolition started. Wayne's crew worked fast. By the end of the week, the extension was gone, just like that. The foundation was ripped up, the walls hauled off, the dream reduced to rubble. The county held an auction for the salvaged materials. Cabinets, fixtures, even the fancy light fixtures Sophie picked out on credit. Most of it sold for pennies. The money went straight to cover the back taxes. I didn't keep a dime. Mom called once, left a voicemail. We didn't know it would go this far. Please, Christine, don't let this be the end. I didn't call her back. Dad sent an email, just one line. You've made your point. I deleted it. I visited the cemetery that Sunday. The wind was sharp, but the sky was clear. I sat by his grave for a long time. You always said I was too forgiving, I said. Guess I finally proved you wrong. I laid a single hydrangea on the headstone. The ones we'd planted together were gone now, dug up during the construction. But I'd replant them in the spring in clean soil. As I stood to leave, I felt something shift inside me. Not peace exactly, but something close, like I could breathe again. When I got home, Wayne was waiting on the porch. Weird question, he said. You ever think about a greenhouse? I raised an eyebrow. Why? He smiled. You got the space now, and I owe you one for dragging me into this circus. I dragged you? He laughed. Okay, maybe I volunteered. I thought about it. Yeah, maybe. Something simple. Glass walls, raised beds. He nodded. We can draw up plans next week. I looked at the empty patch of dirt where the extension used to be. For the first time, it didn't make me angry. It just looked like a blank canvas. Let's do it, I said. The war was over, and I was finally home. The auction was held in a dusty parking lot behind the county building. Rows of folding chairs, a few curious onlookers, and a sad lineup of what used to be Sophie and Dawson's dream. Kitchen cabinets, a clawfoot tub, French doors still wrapped in plastic, all of it tagged and numbered, ready to be picked apart by strangers. I stood off to the side with my arms crossed as the auctioneer barked through a megaphone. Lot 27. Custom marble countertops starting at $50. A man in a flannel jacket raised his hand. It sold for $75. Wayne showed up halfway through. He handed me a coffee without a word and stood beside me, watching the pieces of the extension disappear one by one. They really poured money into this, he said. Money they didn't have. He nodded slowly. You okay? I didn't answer right away. Then I said, I thought it would feel better. Doesn't? It does, I said. Just not the way I expected. He didn't push. After the last item was sold, a county clerk handed me a receipt. The total came out to just under $7,000. Every cent went to cover the balloon property taxes. The rest gone. No refunds, no credits. I signed the paper and handed it back. Sophie and Dawson didn't show. They were long gone by then, moved into a rental 2 towns over. Word was Dawson was working under someone else's real estate license now, showing condos part-time. Sophie had gone quiet on social media. No more curated brunch photos. No more family goals, hashtags, just silence. I didn't hear from them again. Mom sent one last text. I hope you're happy. You've broken this family. I stared at it for a long time. Then I blocked her number. Some bridges don't burn. They rot slowly until one day you step on them and fall through. I wasn't falling anymore. A week later, I stood in the backyard with Wayne, looking at the empty patch of dirt where the extension used to be. He unrolled a set of drawings on the patio table. Greenhouse here, he said, pointing. Raised beds along the back. We can run water lines through the old utility trench, solar panels on the roof. I traced the outline with my finger. You think it'll get enough sun? Plenty. You got the best angle on the block. I smiled. Let's start Monday. The next morning, I visited the local nursery, bought a tray of seedlings, tomatoes, basil, lavender. I carried them home like they were something fragile and sacred. Wayne and his team showed up on schedule. No delays, no drama, just quiet progress. By the end of the week, the frame was up. Glass panels followed, then the shelves, then the soil. It was beautiful, simple, clean, full of potential, just like the house used to feel before they tried to take it from me. Tate came by to see it. "Damn," he said, stepping inside. "This is nicer than my apartment." I laughed. "You helped make it happen." He looked around. "You know, you could rent this out for weddings or sell herbs, something passive." "I don't want passive," I said. "I want peace." He nodded. "You earned it." Before he left, he paused at the door. "I meant to ask, you ever hear from your parents?" "No." "You think they'll come around?" I shook my head. "They already made their choice." He didn't argue. After he left, I stood in the middle of the greenhouse. The sun poured through the glass. The air smelled like earth and promise. I bent down and started planting, one seed at a time. That night, I sat on the porch with a glass of wine, watching the sky turn orange and gold. Wayne walked up with 2 folding chairs and set one beside me. "You okay?" he asked. "I think so." He nodded. "Good. You deserve that." We sat in silence for a while, then he said, "You know, if you ever want to build another wing." I laughed. He grinned. "Kidding. Mostly." I looked out at the yard, at the greenhouse, at the house I'd fought for. "No more wings," I said, "just roots." And for the first time in a long time, that felt like enough. I was in the greenhouse, gently misting the basil, when I heard footsteps crunching on the gravel path. "Smells like a pizza place in here," Tate said, ducking through the door, in the best way. "Fresh basil," I said, spraying one last leaf before setting the bottle down. "You're late." "I brought bribes." He held up a paper bag. "Cinnamon rolls. From that little bakery you like." I took the bag and peeked inside. "You're forgiven." Wayne showed up a few minutes later, toolbox in hand. "You two eating without me?" "There's enough sugar in here to kill a horse," I said, handing him a roll. We sat on the low bench inside the greenhouse, warm light streaming through the glass. The air smelled like soil and cinnamon, and for once no one was yelling, demanding, or pretending to be someone they weren't. Wayne wiped his hands on his jeans. "Got the last coat of sealant on the roof. Should be good for the season." "Thanks," I said. He nodded. "You did good here." Tate leaned back, chewing. "Better than good. You turned a demolition site into a sanctuary." I shrugged. "I just wanted something that was mine again." Wayne looked out the glass wall. "You ever hear from them?" I shook my head. "Not since the auction." Tate raised an eyebrow. "Not even your parents?" "Nope." Wayne looked surprised. "You okay with that?" I nodded. "I'm not chasing people who only show up when it benefits them." They didn't argue. We sat there for a while, just the 3 of us, the greenhouse humming with quiet life. Outside, the wind rustled the trees. Inside, everything felt still. Eventually, Tate stood. "All right, I got court in an hour. Some guy suing his neighbor over a koi pond. Real thrilling." Wayne stood too. "I should head out. Got another job starting next week." They both paused at the door. "You need anything," Tate said, "you call." Wayne added, "And if you ever want to expand—" "No wings," I said, smiling. He grinned. "Right, just roots." They left, and I stayed behind, watering the last row of seedlings. When I stepped out, the sun was low, casting long shadows across the yard. I walked around the house, checking the new gutters, the trimmed hedges. Everything was clean, quiet, mine. Then I saw her, Sophie, standing at the edge of the driveway, arms crossed, eyes hidden behind sunglasses. I didn't say anything, just waited. She took a few cautious steps forward. "I saw the greenhouse." I nodded. "Built it where your nursery used to be." She flinched. "I didn't come to fight." "Then why are you here?" She pulled something from her bag, a small envelope. She held it out. I didn't take it. It's not money, she said. It's a letter from Mom. I raised an eyebrow. She couldn't send it herself. She's embarrassed. She should be. Sophie lowered her hand. I don't expect you to forgive us. Good. But I wanted to say it anyway. I'm sorry. I looked at her. Really looked. She was thinner, paler, her hair pulled back in a messy bun, none of the usual polish. There was no Dawson in sight, no matching outfits, no curated smiles. I lost everything, she said. Our savings, friends. Dawson's license is still suspended. We're renting a one-bedroom. I'm working part-time at a preschool. I didn't say anything. I know I deserve this, she said. But I also know you didn't deserve what we did to you. I finally took the envelope. You're right, I didn't. She nodded. I won't bother you again. She turned to leave. Sophie. She stopped. I hope you mean it. She looked over her shoulder. I do. Then she was gone. I walked back inside, set the envelope on the counter, and left it there. I didn't open it. Instead, I grabbed my gloves and headed back to the greenhouse. The sun was setting, casting gold across the glass walls. I knelt in the dirt, planting the last of the lavender. My hands sank into the soil, warm, forgiving. No more noise, no more lies. Just the sound of water, wind, and the quiet rhythm of something growing. Justice didn't come with fireworks. It came with silence and a view.
You're seriously giving me this? That was the moment it happened. Not a scream, not a slap, not even a dramatic gasp. Just those 6 words dripping with disgust as my sister held the scrapbook like it was a used tissue. I blinked. It's a scrapbook. I made it myself. It has photos of us from when we were kids, and I know what it is, Sienna snapped, flipping a page with 2 fingers like it might bite her. God, Pearl, you're 30. Why are you still giving me arts and crafts? The room was empty now, just the 2 of us in the bridal suite after her shower. Earlier, the place had been packed with pastel cupcakes, fake laughter, and Presley squealing over lingerie. Now it was quiet, except for the sound of my heart thudding in my ears. I thought it'd be meaningful, I said. There's a page with Grandma's recipe in her handwriting, and the plane ticket stub from our first Disneyland trip. I spent weeks on it. Sienna rolled her eyes so hard I thought they might get stuck. I told you we needed cash for the honeymoon. Jason and I are doing Bora Bora, not Memory Lane. She shoved the scrapbook back into the gift bag and tossed it onto the floor like it offended her. If you're not going to contribute to the fund, just say so. Don't do this whole sentimental guilt trip thing. I stood there, still holding the ribbon I'd tied around the bag. You asked for personal gifts at the shower. Yeah, from people who can't afford to do more. You can. You're always bragging about your savings account. I wasn't. I never bragged. I just once mentioned I'd paid off my student loans early, and somehow that became family code for Pearl's the bank. She crossed her arms. Look, it's not a big deal. Just Venmo me $2,000 or whatever. We'll call it even. Even. Like the last 15 years of bailing her out of overdraft fees, co-signing her car lease, and covering Mum's surprise birthday dinner that Sienna planned but forgot to pay for. Those didn't count. I didn't say a word. I bent down, picked up the scrapbook, and pulled the ribbon free. I folded it neatly, tucked it into my purse. Then I straightened up, looked her in the eye and said, "Okay." She blinked. "Okay? Okay," I repeated. I smiled. It wasn't warm. Then I turned and walked out of the suite. My heels clicked against the tile like punctuation marks. Something in me had snapped, but it snapped quietly, and that's always more dangerous. My name is Pearl, and I've been the family doormat for 3 decades. I'm the younger sister, the responsible one, the one who always shows up. I bring extra batteries to Thanksgiving. I remember everyone's birthdays. I keep a Google sheet of who likes what kind of wine. And Sienna? She's the sun around which our mother orbits. She's the drama, the sparkle, the one who just needs a little help right now for the 12th year running. Growing up, she used to steal my Halloween candy and then cry when I told Mom. Guess who got scolded for not sharing? At the bridal shower, she was in full performance mode. Hair extensions, fake lashes, a white dress that cost more than my rent. She opened each gift with a shriek and a squeal, tossing tissue paper like confetti. Presley, her maid of honour and fellow narcissist, kept shouting, "Yes, Queen!" every time Sienna unwrapped something remotely shiny. When it was my turn, I handed over the bag with both hands. I'd wrapped it in silver paper, tied it with ribbon, even added a sprig of lavender. Sienna smiled. Plastic, tight. "Oh, from my baby sister," she cooed, loud enough for everyone to hear. She opened it, flipped through a few pages and said, "So sweet." Then she moved on like it was a card from a co-worker. But later, when the guests were gone and the champagne buzz had faded, the real Sienna came out. I drove home in silence. No music, no podcast, just the sound of traffic and my own breathing. I didn't cry. I didn't even feel sad. I felt done, like something had finally clicked into place. At a red light, I glanced at the bag in the passenger seat. The scrapbook sat inside, slightly bent. I reached in, pulled it out, and opened to the last page. There, taped carefully, was a photo of us as kids. Sienna in a princess dress, me in a dinosaur hoodie, both of us grinning. I'd captioned it. Before we knew better. I closed the book. I didn't know exactly what I was going to do yet, but I knew what I wasn't going to do. I wasn't giving her a single cent. Not for the honeymoon, not for the wedding, not for anything. She'd thrown away my gift. Fine, I'd return the favour. But unlike her, I'd do it with style. "Jayla, guess how much money I've given Sienna since college?" Jayla didn't even look up from her iced coffee. "Oh God, don't tell me. I want to sleep tonight." I flipped my laptop around so she could see the spreadsheet. That's just the last 5 years. Rent, emergency credit card bills, bachelorette trip deposits, the "I lost my wallet" incident in Vegas. Jayla squinted at the total. $9,472? Are you kidding me? Nope. And that doesn't include the time I paid her car insurance for 6 months. Jayla set her cup down. "Pearl, babe, that's not sisterhood. That's financial abuse." I gave a half shrug. She always made it seem like it was just temporary, like I was helping her get on her feet. Jayla leaned across the table. "She's been standing on your feet." We were sitting at our usual spot at the corner cafe, 2 blocks from my apartment. I'd brought the scrapbook with me, mostly out of spite. I started pulling it apart while we talked. Jayla watched as I slid out a photo of us at summer camp, then carefully peeled off the corner sticker holding an old concert ticket. "Wait, is that from the Paramore show in 2009? "Yep, and this," I held up a folded napkin, "is from our first dinner out without our parents. Sienna ordered lobster and made me split the bill." Jayla snorted. "Classic." I kept dismantling the pages, slower now. There was something weirdly satisfying about it, like reverse therapy. Then I found it. I paused, holding up a small envelope. "What's that?" Jayla asked. I opened it and pulled out a pressed flower and a thin gold chain. "It's Grandma's locket. I forgot I put it in here." Jayla's eyes widened. "Wait, is that real gold?" "Yeah, it was in a box of her old stuff. I thought it'd be meaningful." Jayla took it, examined the clasp. "Pearl, this is vintage. You could sell this." I blinked. I wasn't thinking about that. "Think about it now," she said. "You've got emotional trauma and literal treasure in here. Let's make some magic." 2 hours later, We were at a vintage jewellery shop downtown. The guy behind the counter had a man bun and a magnifying glass. He examined the locket, the charm bracelet, and a couple of other trinkets I'd added to the pile. "I can give you $1,800 for the lot," he said. Jayla nudged me. "That's almost the exact amount she demanded." I smiled. "Make it 2,000 and you've got a deal." He looked at me, then at the jewellery. "All right, done." We walked out with a cheque in my hand and a plan forming in my head. "I'm not going to her wedding," I said. Jayla stopped mid-step. "Wait, what?" "I'm not going. I'm not giving her money. I'm not giving her time. I'm done." Jayla stared at me like I'd just sprouted wings. "You're serious?" "I've never been more serious." She let out a low whistle. "Okay then, what are you going to do instead?" I pulled out my phone and opened a travel app. Something for me. We sat on a bench outside the shop while I scrolled through options. Bali was too far. Miami felt too close. Then I saw it. "Sedona," I said. Jayla leaned over. "Ooh, red rocks, spas, rich divorcee energy. I like it." I booked the trip right there. Luxury spa resort, yoga in the mornings, facials in the afternoons, 3 nights, paid in full with the exact amount I'd just gotten from the jewellery. Jayla clapped. "This is the energy I've been waiting for. Pearl 2.0. I grinned. She wanted money for her honeymoon. Great, I'm using it for mine. A solo honeymoon. Jayla raised her coffee in a toast. To self-love and not funding narcissists. I clinked my water bottle against her cup. Amen. That night, I went home and pulled out the last few things from the scrapbook. I found an old note from Sienna, written in purple gel pen. "Thanks for letting me borrow your top." I got a date. "You're the best lil sis." I stared at it for a long second. Then I tossed it in the trash. The next morning, I started packing. Not for the wedding, for Sedona. I booked a massage, scheduled a facial, and even added on a sound bath session, because why not? My phone buzzed with a text from Sienna. Sienna. "Hey, I forgive you for the ugly gift thing. Let's just move on. Bring the check to the rehearsal dinner, Kay." I stared at the message. Jayla was right. This wasn't sisterhood. This was a transaction. I typed back one sentence. "I'll see what I can do." Then I turned off my phone and slid it into a drawer. For the first time in years, I felt like I could breathe. My phone lit up with Mom just as I was zipping up my suitcase. I let it ring once, twice. Then I answered. "Hi, Mum." "Pearl," she said, her voice already tight. "I just got off the phone with your sister." "Of course she did. She said you're being difficult about the wedding gift. What's going on?" I took a deep breath and sat on the edge of my bed. I gave her a handmade scrapbook. She didn't like it. She asked for cash instead. "Well," Mum said slowly, "you know how stressed she's been. Planning a wedding is a lot. Maybe she just didn't express herself the right way." She threw the scrapbook at me, Mom. Silence. She said it was childish, called it arts and crafts. More silence. Then, well, maybe it wasn't the right time for that kind of gift. I stared at the wall. "So now it's my fault?" "I'm not saying that. I just think you should be the bigger person. You always are." There it was, the family catchphrase. Be the bigger person. Translation, let Sienna walk all over you again. "I'm not giving her money," I said. Mum sighed like I'd told her I was dropping out of society to live in a cave. "Pearl, please, it's not about the money. It's about family, about showing support. I've shown support for 30 years. She's your sister." I stood up. "Exactly, and she should act like it." Mum's voice dropped to that guilt-laced whisper she used when she wanted to sound like a martyr. "You know how she gets. Just give her the check and let's keep the peace for one weekend." I walked to the window and looked out at the street. She doesn't want peace. She wants control. Pearl, I'm not doing it. There was a pause, then a sharp, disappointed exhale. I just hope you don't regret this later. I hung up without saying goodbye. That night, I got another text from Sienna. Sienna, I just want to move forward, bring the check to the rehearsal dinner, and we can forget the drama. She was so sure I'd cave. I texted back, I'll see what I can do. Then I slid my phone into airplane mode and tossed it onto the couch. The rehearsal dinner was Friday night. I showed up in a navy dress and nude heels, smiling like nothing was wrong. I even brought a bottle of wine. Cheap, but I wrapped it nicely. Sienna spotted me the second I walked in. Her eyes scanned my hands. No envelope. Pearl, she said, air-kissing my cheek. Glad you could make it. Wouldn't miss it, I said. Jason came over grinning. Hey, glad you're here. Sienna's been running around like crazy. I smiled at him. Poor guy, still clueless. Presley floated over in a cloud of perfume and highlighter. OMG, Pearl, you look so cute tonight. Love that you're not going too glam. It's very chill bridesmaid energy. I'm not a bridesmaid, I said. She blinked. Oh, right, well, still cute. Dinner was a blur of wine, speeches, and Sienna laughing too loud at things that weren't funny. I sat between a second cousin and one of Jason's groomsmen, neither of whom knew what to say to me. I didn't mind. I was busy watching. Sienna floated from table to table, hugging people, reminding them about the honeymoon fund box that would be at the reception. Just cash or checks, please, she said, like she was running a fundraiser. Presley leaned over at one point and whispered, She's so excited for the $3,000 your family's contributing. She's already spent it in her head. I almost choked on my water. Oh, I said. Presley nodded. Yeah, she told me your mum's giving 1,000 and you're doing 2. That's so generous. I smiled. She's always had a vivid imagination. Presley blinked, confused. I excused myself and went to the bathroom, locked the stall, sat on the toilet seat, fully clothed, and just breathed. This was it. The performance. The illusion. Everyone here thought I was the dutiful sister, the one who'd show up with a fat check and a forced smile. They had no idea I'd already booked a massage in Sedona for the same time as the ceremony. I walked out of the stall, washed my hands, and looked at myself in the mirror. I didn't look angry. I looked calm, peaceful even. I dried my hands and walked back out like nothing had happened. After dinner, I hugged Jason goodbye. Excited for tomorrow? I asked. He nodded. Yeah, just ready to get through it. Sienna's been intense. She wants everything perfect. Yeah, he said, rubbing the back of his neck. I just hope she slows down after this. I didn't say anything. Sienna hugged me last. Her voice was syrupy sweet. So, you bringing the gift tomorrow? Or should I just check my Venmo? I smiled. I'll see what I can do. Then I walked to my car, heels clicking on the pavement. I didn't look back. The wedding venue looked like a Pinterest board threw up on a vineyard. White roses everywhere, gold chairs, a harpist playing something that sounded expensive. I walked in just long enough to be seen at the rehearsal dinner the night before. But today I was done pretending. The morning of the wedding, I woke up early, showered, and pulled out my suitcase. Everything was already packed. Breezy dresses, sandals, sunscreen, and a wide-brimmed hat I'd bought just for this trip. I double-checked my flight confirmation, then pulled up Instagram. I scheduled the post, a photo of my boarding pass, spa itinerary, and a caption that read, "Starting my own honeymoon. Self-love, people-pleasing." I stared at it for a second, then hit schedule. It would go live right as Sienna walked down the aisle. My phone buzzed with a message from her. Sienna. Don't forget the card. Presley's collecting them at the reception table. I didn't reply. Instead, I opened my group text with Jayla and Patrick, our cousin who somehow knew all the family tea. Me. Boarding in 2 hours. Say hi to the drama for me. Jailer. You're a legend. I'm bringing popcorn to the reception. Patrick. I'll keep you posted. Already heard Sienna's been bragging about your gift. This is going to be delicious. I grinned and turned my phone to airplane mode. At the airport, I ordered a mimosa and sat near the gate, watching the wedding unravel from a distance. I imagined Presley in her sequined dress, fluttering around with a clipboard, barking orders at the caterers. I pictured my mum telling people I was running late or not feeling well. I imagined Sienna smiling through her teeth, wondering where my envelope was. I didn't feel bad, not even a little. The plane boarded. I slid into my seat, pulled out a book, and exhaled. Meanwhile, back at the venue, the whispers started early. Patrick told me later that people noticed I wasn't in the family photos. My mum told the photographer I was on my way, but by the time the ceremony started, people started asking questions. Presley, ever the PR manager, told a bridesmaid I had a last-minute emergency. Then someone saw my Instagram post. According to Patrick, it spread like wildfire. One of the groomsmen showed Jason. Jason showed the best man. The best man asked Presley, "Is this real?" Presley asked Sienna, and that's when the meltdown began. I was poolside sipping champagne when I got the first update. Patrick. She just found out. She's pretending it's no big deal, but her eye is twitching. Jailer. Your mum is telling people you had food poisoning. Someone showed her the post. Patrick. The look on her face, I wish I could frame it. I laughed out loud. The woman next to me raised an eyebrow. I just smiled and took another sip. Back at the reception, things got messier. Sienna made her grand entrance, all smiles and sparkles, but the mood had shifted. People were murmuring. Presley tried to keep the energy up, but the bridesmaids were too busy snickering over the Instagram post. Jason, sweet, clueless Jason, finally confronted Sienna. "He told me Pearl was giving you money," he said, according to Patrick. "You said she offered." Sienna scoffed. "She was supposed to. She's just being dramatic." Jason frowned. "You demanded it from her." "I didn't demand. You told her $2,000 or nothing." "She owed me," Sienna snapped. Jason stared at her like he was seeing her for the first time. Meanwhile, I was getting a hot stone massage. The spa music played softly. My phone was off. My body was loose. And for the first time in years, I wasn't carrying anyone else's weight. Later that night, I turned my phone back on. It lit up like a Christmas tree. Jailer? She cried in the bridal suite, full mascara meltdown, screamed at Presley, threw a wine glass. Patrick. Jason looked like he wanted to run. I think he finally saw the real her. Mom, call me, now. I didn't. Instead, I posted a photo of my dinner, lobster tail, roasted vegetables and a glass of wine, with the caption, "Cheers to choosing peace over performance." The next morning, I FaceTimed Jailer from my balcony. She answered with a grin. "You are a hero." "Tell me everything," Jailer launched into it. "Okay, so Presley tried to spin it like you had a mental breakdown. Then Patrick showed everyone your post. The bridesmaids were dying. One of them said, 'Honestly, I wish I'd skipped too.'" I laughed. "How's Sienna?" "Puffy, silent. Jason's been MIA since the cake cutting. I think he's rethinking his life." I leaned back in my chair. "Good." Jailer raised her mug. "To karma?" "To boundaries," I said, and then we both burst out laughing. Back at the wedding, Sienna was left with a pile of envelopes, some empty, some thin, and a husband who was suddenly asking real questions. And me? I was in Sedona, sun on my face, not a single regret in sight. I was halfway through my second mimosa when my phone buzzed again. "Mom, call me, this is serious." Sienna. You ruined everything. Presley. Wow, just wow. I locked the screen and dropped the phone face down on the side table. The view from my suite was too perfect to waste on notifications. Red rocks glowing in the sunset, warm breeze, and not a single screaming bridesmaid in sight. Earlier that morning, I'd laid out my plan like clockwork. I'd woken up before sunrise, showered, and made myself a cup of tea. No music, no distractions, just calm. I laid out the clothes I'd wear to the airport: linen pants, soft tea, sandals. I packed the last few things into my carry-on: sunscreen, a book, a sleep mask. Then I opened my laptop and cued the post. It was a photo of my spa itinerary, the boarding pass tucked underneath, and a caption that read, "Can't make the wedding, prior commitment, starting my own honeymoon, self-love, people-pleasing." I scheduled it for 3:55 p.m, 5 minutes before the ceremony was set to start. I stared at the screen for a second before closing the laptop. Then I picked up my phone, opened my messages, and typed one final text to Sienna. Me. Can't make the wedding, prior commitment. I hit send, then I blocked her number, blocked Mom too, blocked Presley for good measure. I turned on Do Not Disturb, zipped my suitcase, and walked out the door. At the airport, I bought a green juice and sat at the gate like I hadn't just detonated a social grenade. The flight was smooth. I spent most of it reading and ignoring the growing temptation to check my phone. By the time I landed in Arizona, the post had gone live. The comments were already rolling in. Jailer. You did it. Patrick. I'm at the reception. Everyone's talking. Sienna's face when she saw the post. Priceless. Bridesmaid. I barely knew. Honestly, iconic. I turned off notifications again. I wasn't here to bask in the chaos. I was here to breathe. The resort was everything I hoped for: soft robes, citrus-infused water in the lobby, a welcome drink with a sprig of rosemary. The receptionist handed me a key card and said, "You're booked for the Serenity package, daily massage, facials, yoga, and sound healing." Perfect, I said. I checked into my suite, kicked off my shoes, and stood on the balcony for a moment. The silence was unreal. No screaming, no guilt-tripping, no one asking for money. Just me. Later that night, I FaceTimed Jailer. She answered from her car, still in her bridesmaid dress, hair frizzed, makeup smudged. "Girl," she said, "you have no idea what you just caused." "Tell me everything," she grinned. "Okay, so first of all, Presley tried to play it off like you had a mental health emergency and needed space." I laughed. "That's rich." "Then someone showed your post to the groomsman. Jason saw it. He looked like he'd been hit by a bus." "Did he say anything?" "Yeah. He walked straight to Sienna and asked, 'Did you demand money from Pearl?'" I raised my eyebrows. "And?" "She tried to spin it. Said you were being selfish and ruining her moment. Jason didn't buy it." Jailer paused, grinning wider. Then he said, "If she needed to escape this circus, maybe I should have gone with her." I nearly dropped my phone. He said that? Word for word, babe. I let out a low whistle. Wow. "Oh, and your mum, she told people you had food poisoning. Then someone showed her your post. She turned red, like tomato red." I leaned back on the bed, laughing. "I should have done this years ago." Jailer nodded. "You're free now. How does it feel?" I looked around at the soft lighting, the spa menu on the nightstand, the sound of wind rustling through the trees outside. "Peaceful," I said. The next morning I got a massage, 90 minutes, hot stones. At one point I think I levitated. Afterward, I sat by the pool with a smoothie and let the sun warm every inch of my skin. I watched a lizard scurry across the patio and felt, for the first time in forever, completely still. Then I checked the group chat. "Patrick, update, Sienna flipped out when she realized your envelope wasn't in the gift box. She made Presley count them twice. Jailer. She cornered your mum and asked where the money was. Your mum actually said maybe she finally got tired of being used. I blinked. Me. Wait, Mum said that? Patrick. Yup, out loud in front of Aunt Denise. I stared at the screen, stunned. Maybe the spell had finally broken. Maybe when I walked away, I didn't just save myself. I showed everyone what Sienna really was. That night, I ordered room service and sat on the balcony with a glass of wine. I watched the sun melt behind the rocks and thought about how long I'd let guilt dictate my life. Not anymore. I didn't need to scream. I didn't need to fight. I just needed to leave. And that, it turned out, was loud enough. Patrick called me from the parking lot of the reception, whispering like he was in a spy movie. She's losing it. I put him on speaker and set the phone on the patio table next to my mimosa. Define losing it. Patrick exhaled. Okay, so first she tried to play it cool, acted like you were just running late. Then someone showed her the Instagram post. She froze, like full statue mode. I sipped my drink. And? She stormed off. Presley followed her. 10 minutes later, they came back and started counting the envelopes. I laughed. You're kidding. Nope. Presley had a clipboard. I think she had a whole spreadsheet. They were whispering, flipping through cards, checking names. I could practically see it. Sienna in her sparkling white dress, flipping through wedding cards like a tax auditor. I leaned back in my chair, soaking in the Arizona sun. So what happened when they realized mine was missing? She said, and I quote, Pearl must have mailed it. She's just being dramatic. I snorted. Sure, that tracks. Then Jason walked over. My ears perked up. What did he say? He asked why you weren't there. Sienna said you bailed for attention. Jason didn't buy it. He said you told him at the rehearsal dinner you were excited. Then he asked Presley if you'd said anything to her. And Presley looked like she swallowed a lemon. She said, Pearl's always been weird. Nice. Jason didn't let it go. He said, did she give you guys money? Presley said no. Then he asked Sienna flat out, did you demand money from your sister? I sat up straighter. And what did she say? She said, she's family. She owes me. I blinked. She actually said that? Loudly, in front of the DJ? I burst out laughing. Oh my God, Patrick chuckled. Then Jason walked off. He hasn't spoken to her since. He's been talking to the best man and drinking straight whiskey. I shook my head. He's seeing it now. Everyone is. The bridesmaids were whispering about your post. One of them said, honestly, Pearl made the right call. I grinned. Tell them I said thanks. Oh, and your mum tried to cover for you again, told Aunt Denise you were sick with a stomach bug. Then someone showed her your post. She turned purple. Did she say anything? Patrick laughed. She said, that girl is going to kill me. Then she sat down and didn't move for 20 minutes. I stood up and stretched. Sounds like a great party. Oh, it gets better. During the cake cutting, Sienna tried to smile for photos but kept glancing at the gift table. Then she whispered something to Presley, who ran back and counted the envelopes. Again. Twice. 3 times now. I shook my head. She really thought I'd show up with a fat check and a fake smile. She underestimated you. I looked out at the red rocks glowing under the setting sun. She always did. An hour later, Jayla sent me a video. It was shaky, taken from behind a floral centerpiece, but the audio was clear. Sienna stood at the head table, wineglass in hand, wild-eyed. I just think it's funny, she said, voice rising, how some people, family, can't even show up for the most important day of your life. Jason stood next to her, stiff, arms crossed. Presley tried to pull her back, babe, let's just... No, Sienna snapped. She made this about her. She's always been jealous, always needed to make everything about her. Someone in the background coughed. A few guests looked away. The DJ awkwardly turned the music volume down. Jayla's voice, off camera, whispered, "This is better than Netflix." By the time the reception ended, my phone was blowing up. Patrick. She cried in the bridal suite. Lock the door. Presley's trying to calm her down. Jailer. Jason left early, didn't even stay for the sparkler exit. Bridesmaid again. Pearl, you won the wedding. I opened our cousin group chat. Someone had changed the name to Pearl's Wedding Now. I laughed so hard I nearly spilled my drink. The next morning, I checked my phone while sipping coffee on the balcony. A new message had popped up in the anonymous group chat someone started for the bridal party. Unknown. That meltdown was iconic. Pearl actually won the wedding. Another. Is she single? Asking for my brother. Jailer. She's booked and busy, babe. I spent the rest of the day hiking, getting another massage, and eating a ridiculously overpriced avocado toast. I didn't check my phone again until sunset. There was one new message from an unknown number. Unknown. You hurt a lot of people. Hope it was worth it. I blocked it without replying. It was worth it. Every second. The wedding was over. The guests had gone home. The flowers were already wilting in their centerpieces. But Sienna, she was just getting started with her breakdown. I was lying face down on a massage table in Sedona, warm oil being poured down my back, when Jayla called. I usually wouldn't answer, but I had a feeling. I slid my phone off the side table and answered with a whisper. What now? Jayla didn't even say hello. She flipped out like full meltdown, screaming, crying, accusing people. I propped myself up on one elbow. At who? Everyone, she said. She accused Presley of stealing envelopes, said someone must have taken your card. I blinked. She really thinks I mailed her a check. She thinks someone stole the check you didn't give. I flopped back down and laughed into the massage table. Jayla kept going. She went down the list of guests, asking who gave what. She even asked Jason's aunt how much she put in the envelope. You're kidding. Not even a little. She said, I just need to know who actually supports me. Jason pulled her aside, and they had a full argument in the hallway. People heard everything. What did he say? He said, I married you, not your Venmo. Then he asked if she even cared about the day or just the money. I whistled. Ouch. She said, You don't get it. Pearl humiliated me. She made me look like a beggar. I sat up now, the massage forgotten. She made herself look like a beggar. Exactly. I grabbed a robe and walked out onto the balcony. So what now? Are they still married? Jayla hesitated. They're technically married, but Jason left the hotel last night. He booked a separate room. They haven't spoken since. I stared out at the desert. Wow, she's spiraling, Jayla said. Presley tried to calm her down, but Sienna turned on her too, said, You were supposed to manage this. You let her embarrass me. I snorted. She wanted a wedding planner, not a friend. Presley told her she was acting like a spoiled brat. Then she left. Presley left? Yep, took off her heels and walked out barefoot. It was kind of beautiful. I smiled. Karma's not always a thunderbolt. Sometimes it's a barefoot bridesmaid walking across a gravel driveway. Jayla laughed. You're a poet now? I'm relaxed. Well, enjoy it. You earned this. That night, I posted a photo of the sunset from my balcony. No caption, just light and sky and silence. People flooded the comments. Cousin Leah. This is the energy I want in my life. Jayla. Queen behaviour. Random groomsmen. Wish I'd gone with you. I didn't respond to any of them. I didn't need to. Meanwhile, back home, Sienna was unravelling. Patrick sent me a voice memo the next day. She's calling everyone, trying to do damage control, told Aunt Denise you were mentally unstable and needed help. I rolled my eyes. She told Jason's mum you were jealous of her happiness. Jason's mum said she looked pretty happy in Sedona. I laughed. She saw the post. Everyone saw the post. The next morning, I checked my email and saw a subject line that made me pause. Proposal. Book idea. Boundaries and burnout. It was from a small publishing house I'd submitted to months ago. I'd written a sample chapter about emotional labour in families, titled The Cost of Being the Responsible One. I opened the email. They wanted to offer me a deal. I sat there, stunned, the spa music still playing softly from my Bluetooth speaker. Jayla called right as I was processing it. Guess what? I said. What? I got a book deal. She screamed so loud I had to pull the phone away from my ear. Shut up! Shut up! I'm serious. Pearl, you're about to be a published author. And the family legend who skipped the wedding. You're unstoppable. I laughed. Feels like it. Jayla paused. So, what happens when you go back? I looked out at the mountains. I don't know, but I'm not scared of her anymore. That night, I took a long bath, poured myself a glass of wine, and scrolled through the anonymous group chat one last time. Someone had posted a meme, a photo of a woman walking away from a burning building with sunglasses on. Caption, Pearl walking out of the family group chat like... I laughed so hard I nearly dropped my phone. The comments underneath were even better. She didn't attend the wedding, but she gave us all a gift. I aspire to Pearl's level of peace. Honestly, she's the main character now. I didn't reply. I didn't need to. I just smiled, locked my phone, and went to bed. Sienna had always counted on me to be quiet, to keep the peace, to write the check. But this time, I chose myself. And that silence, it was the loudest thing I'd ever done. I was unpacking my suitcase when the doorbell rang. No knock, just the bell, sharp and impatient. I peeked through the peephole. Sienna. She stood there in flats and sunglasses, arms crossed, shoulders tense. I opened the door halfway, blocking most of the entry with my body. Hi, I said. She pulled off her sunglasses like it was a dramatic movie scene. We need to talk. I didn't move. About what? She pushed a breath through her nose. You humiliated me. I tilted my head. No, you did that yourself. Her jaw clenched. You abandoned your family. You bailed on my wedding. You made me look like a fool. I leaned against the doorframe. You screamed at me over a scrapbook, demanded money like it was owed. You look like a fool. She stepped forward, but I didn't move. I was stressed. Weddings are a lot. You blindsided me. I crossed my arms. You asked for $2,000. You threw my gift in the trash. I didn't throw it. You tossed it on the floor and called it arts and crafts. She blinked. It wasn't about the gift, it was about the principle. I laughed. Exactly. And the principle is, I'm not your ATM anymore. Sienna's face twisted. You think you're better than me now? No, I said. I think I'm done with you. That landed. She stepped back like I'd slapped her. You didn't just skip the wedding, she said. You made a show of it. You posted about it. You wanted people to talk. No, I said. I wanted peace. I just didn't care if people talked. She stared at me for a long second. Then her voice dropped. Jason's not speaking to me. I didn't reply. He said I embarrassed him, that I made the whole day about money. I raised an eyebrow. Did you? She didn't answer. I'm not the villain here, she said, quieter now. No, I said. You're the consequence. Her eyes flashed. So that's it? You're just walking away? I already did. She looked around like she might scream, but nothing came out. Just silence. She finally turned and walked back to her car. No goodbye, no apology. I closed the door and locked it. Later that afternoon, Jayla showed up with 2 coffees and a bag of croissants. Tell me everything, she said, kicking off her shoes. She came to the door, I said, handing her a napkin. Tried to spin it, blamed me, said Jason's mad, still didn't apologize. Jayla bit into a croissant. Of course not. Narcissists don't do accountability. She said I made a show of it. Jayla snorted. You made a statement? There's a difference. I smiled. She's unravelling. She's exposed, Jayla corrected. She's always been this way, now everyone sees it. I sat down on the couch. She asked if I was just walking away. Jayla looked at me. And you are, right? I nodded. Yeah, I am. She raised her coffee. To walking away. I clinked my mug against hers. To never going back. That night, I got an email from my editor. Subject. Cover concept attached. I opened the file. The book title was in bold across a soft, minimalist background. The Cost of Yes, How I Stopped Saving Everyone Else and Started Saving Myself. I stared at it for a long second, then clicked Download. I sent the image to Jayla. She replied with a single word. Chills. The next morning, I checked my mail. Bills, a coupon for a pizza place I never go to, and 1 small white envelope with no return address. I opened it slowly. Inside was a blank wedding thank you card. No message, no signature, just empty. I stared at it, then let out a laugh, short and sharp. I walked to my bookshelf, tucked it between 2 books, and stepped back. It sat there like a trophy, not of the wedding, of the win.
The dress mock-up appeared in my inbox at 2:47 p.m. on a Tuesday, right between a client invoice and a spam email about weight loss tea. I almost scrolled past it, but Catherine's subject line caught my eye. What do you think of this? The image loaded slowly, pixel by pixel, like a nightmare materializing in real time. White silk, sweetheart neckline, delicate lace appliques trailing down the bodice. My wedding dress. The one I'd spent months designing. The one still hanging in its garment bag at the back of my closet. Tags intact. Except this wasn't my dress anymore. This was a replica with subtle alterations. A deeper V in the back, slightly fuller skirt. And there in the email text, think this will look good on me? Getting so excited for June. My coffee mug slipped from my fingers, shattering against my desk. Hot liquid splashed across my laptop keyboard, but I barely noticed. The world had narrowed to those words on my screen, each one a fresh betrayal. Everything okay in there? Grace's voice floated in from the gallery's main room. My sister, always checking on me. Fine, I called back, my voice steadier than it had any right to be. Just knocked something over. I grabbed paper towels from my desk drawer, mechanically blotting coffee from my keyboard while my mind raced. Catherine was my best friend. Had been since college, when we'd bonded over terrible art history lectures and midnight pizza runs. She'd helped me plan my wedding to Thomas, for God's sake. Had stood there with tears in her eyes when he proposed. The proposal. 8 months ago now. Thomas down on one knee in the sculpture garden where we'd had our first date, Catherine hiding nearby to take photos. She'd hugged me so tightly afterward, whispered how happy she was for us. My phone buzzed. A text from Thomas. Dinner tonight? That new Thai place you wanted to try? I stared at his message, at the little heart emoji he'd added at the end. How many times had he texted Catherine today? How long had they been? No, I was being paranoid. There had to be an explanation. Catherine was an art curator like me. Maybe she'd just fallen in love with the design. Maybe she'd asked Thomas if it was okay to use it as inspiration. Maybe. Another email notification popped up. Catherine again. BTW. The venue you and Thomas originally booked became available. The June cancellation. We grabbed it right away. Meant to be, right? The same venue. My venue. Our venue. I opened my browser, fingers trembling as I typed in the wedding website I'd created months ago. The site I hadn't looked at since Thomas and I decided to postpone, citing family issues and timing. The site I'd meant to take down. Error 404. Page not found. With numb fingers, I opened my banking app. The joint account Thomas and I had started for wedding expenses was still there, but the balance was different. New transactions I didn't recognize. Payments to vendors, our vendors, dating back weeks. Cadence? Grace appeared in my office doorway, frowning at the coffee mess. You sure you're okay? You look like you've seen a... When did you last talk to Catherine? I interrupted. Maybe last week? She mentioned something about being super busy with wedding stuff. Oh, shit. Grace's eyes went wide as she connected the dots. Oh, Katie. No. Check your email, I said quietly. I bet you anything there's a save the date in there somewhere. For June. Grace pulled out her phone. I watched her face as she scrolled, saw the exact moment she found it. The color drained from her cheeks. I'm going to kill her, she whispered. Both of them. I'm actually going to... Don't. I turned back to my computer, closed the email with its mockery of silk and lace, opened a fresh document instead. I have a better idea. My hands had stopped shaking. The initial shock was wearing off, leaving something colder, clearer. The gallery had taught me that the right presentation was everything, that timing was crucial, that sometimes the most devastating impact came not from what you showed, but from what you waited to reveal. My phone buzzed again. Thomas, following up about dinner. I picked it up, typed back. Can't wait, 7:30? Added a heart emoji of my own. Grace made a strangled sound. How can you? Because, I said, already making notes, already seeing the possibilities unfold. They think they know exactly how this story ends, and I'm going to let them think that, right up until the moment I show them how wrong they are. I looked up at my sister, managed a smile that felt like broken glass. After all, every good curator knows the most memorable exhibitions are the ones that surprise their audience. I made it through dinner with Thomas somehow, sat across from him at that trendy Thai place, watching him eat pad Thai like everything was normal. Like he hadn't stolen my entire future and handed it to my best friend with a bow on top. You're quiet tonight, he said, reaching for my hand across the table. I let him take it, fighting the urge to recoil. His fingers felt foreign now, like they belonged to a stranger. In a way, they did. Just tired, work stuff. I forced a smile, withdrew my hand to take a sip of wine. Actually, I ran into Nadine today. She mentioned Catherine's been really busy lately. Something flickered in his eyes, so brief I almost missed it. Almost. Oh yeah? His voice was carefully casual. Too casual. Wedding planning, apparently. I watched him over the rim of my glass. Funny, she hasn't mentioned anything to me about seeing someone. He coughed, dabbed his mouth with his napkin. You know, Catherine, always playing things close to the chest. I thought about the email sitting in my inbox, about my wedding dress wrapped around my former best friend's body, about playing things close to the chest. True, I said, though you'd think she'd tell her best friend about getting engaged. The waiter appeared then, saving Thomas from having to respond. I watched him order another beer, noticed how his hand trembled slightly as he handed over the menu. Good, let him sweat. Back home, I waited until I heard his shower running before I started digging. His laptop was password protected, but I knew all his passwords, had known them for years, another piece of trust he'd weaponized against me. It didn't take long to find the evidence. Email threads going back months, hotel reservations, photos I wished I could unsee, but it was a document dated 3 weeks after our engagement that made my blood run cold. A lease agreement, Thomas and Catherine's names side by side, for an apartment across town, starting date 7 months ago. The shower shut off. I quickly closed everything, wiped the browser history, returned the laptop exactly as I'd found it. When Thomas came to bed, I pretended to be asleep. I waited until his breathing evened out before slipping away to the guest room. My hands shook as I called Grace. "They've been living together," I whispered when she picked up. "Since before we postponed the wedding. All those nights he was working late or out with the guys. He was with her, in their apartment." "Jesus Christ!" Grace's voice crackled with rage. "What are you going to do?" I stared out the window at the city lights, at all the other lives unfolding in warm yellow squares. "Remember that charity auction Catherine's organizing? The one next month? The big gallery fundraiser?" "Yeah, why?" "Because I just found something interesting in their lease agreement. Something that could blow everything wide open." I touched the window, watched my reflection smile grimly back at me. "But I need your help. And Nicholas's." "Your lawyer friend? Katie, what are you planning?" "Justice," I said softly. "Or maybe revenge. At this point, is there really a difference?" The line went quiet. Then, "Whatever you need, I'm in." After we hung up, I pulled up the email Catherine had sent, stared at my wedding dress, transformed into her victory flag. She'd changed the neckline, added beading where there had been clean lines, corrupted something pure into something else entirely. Just like our friendship. My phone lit up with a text from Thomas. "Missing you in here. Come to bed?" I typed back, "Just finishing some work. Be there soon." Another lie and a house built from them. I opened my laptop, pulled up the gallery's donor database, started cross-referencing names with the lease agreement I'd photographed. Catherine had always been meticulous about keeping her professional and personal lives separate. Had always insisted on it, actually. Now I knew why. Because there it was. The smoking gun I needed. The thread that, when pulled, would unravel everything they'd built on the foundation of my broken trust. Catherine's carefully constructed wall between personal and professional was about to come crashing down. And the best part? She'd handed me the weapon herself, hidden in plain sight in that lease agreement. All I had to do was wait for the perfect moment to use it. I closed my laptop, feeling calmer than I had all day. Tomorrow, I'd call Nicholas, start putting the pieces in place. But tonight, I walked back to our bedroom. No, his bedroom now. Slid under the covers next to the stranger wearing my fiancé's face. Let him pull me close, even as my mind raced with possibilities. "Everything okay?" he murmured sleepily. "Perfect," I whispered back. "Everything's absolutely perfect." And for the first time since seeing that email, I wasn't entirely lying. Nicholas's office always smelled like old books and coffee. Today, the familiar scent did nothing to calm my nerves as I spread the documents across his desk. "This is..." He adjusted his glasses, frowning at the lease agreement. "Interesting. Very interesting." "Interesting enough to work with?" I leaned forward, trying to read his expression. The conflict of interest is clear. Catherine approved gallery funds for renovations on a building where she secretly held a personal lease. That's a serious ethical breach. He tapped his pen against the desk. "But Cadence, are you sure you want to go this route? Once we start this process..." "They're using my venue, my dress, my entire wedding, Nicholas. They're literally stealing my life and rewriting me out of it." "I understand. But revenge isn't always Announc interrupted us. His secretary poked her head in. "Sorry to interrupt, but there's an urgent call from the gallery board." My stomach dropped. "That's impossible. The board meeting isn't until next week." "Emergency session," Nicholas said, already reaching for his phone. "Give us a minute?" I stepped into the hallway, pressed my ear against the door. Could only make out fragments. Serious allegations, financial impropriety, immediate review. When Nicholas called me back in, his face was grim. "They know." "What? How?" "Someone tipped off the board about potential misconduct. They're launching a full audit of all gallery transactions from the past year." My hands went cold. "Catherine?" "No." "Thomas?" The room tilted sideways. "Of course. He must have seen me on his laptop last night, must have figured out what I'd found. He's trying to get ahead of it, Nicholas said quietly. Control the narrative. If Catherine comes under investigation, everything else might come out too. Including their affair, including the fact that they'd been planning this for months. My phone buzzed, Grace calling. I let it go to voicemail. Couldn't deal with more bad news right now. What do we do? Nicholas gathered the documents, handed them back to me. We adapt. They're expecting a financial attack, so we give them something else entirely. What do you mean? The charity auction next month. It's Catherine's big event, right? Her chance to impress the major donors? I nodded slowly, starting to see where he was going. So we wait, let the audit happen, let them think they've dodged the bullet. Then, my phone buzzed again. Grace, again. This time I answered. Katie, thank God! You need to check Instagram, right now. I pulled up the app, felt the blood drain from my face. There it was, posted an hour ago. Catherine and Thomas, matching coffee cups, matching smiles. The caption, wedding planning with this one. Can't wait to share our special day with everyone. June bride. The comments were already rolling in. Congratulations. Heart emojis. Questions about the venue, the date. Questions about me. They're going public, I whispered. They're actually going public with this. There's more, Grace said. Mom just called. Apparently, Catherine sent save the dates to our entire family, including Gran. Our grandmother, who'd given me her vintage pearl necklace last Christmas. For your wedding day, she'd said, beaming. Every bride needs something borrowed. Something inside me snapped. Nicholas, I said, my voice steady despite the roaring in my ears. The auction. What exactly did you have in mind? He outlined the plan. With each detail, I felt my resolve harden. It's risky, he warned. If it backfires, I don't care anymore. I stood up, gathering my things. They want to play happy couples on social media? Fine, let them have their moment. Grace was still on the phone. What are you going to do? I thought about Catherine's Instagram post, about Thomas's careful maneuvering with the board, about how they thought they had everything under control. I'm going to congratulate them, I said, publicly, enthusiastically. I'm going to be the biggest supporter of their perfect little love story. You're what? Because that's what they're afraid of, isn't it? Me making a scene, going nuclear? They've planned for that. I smiled, though no one could see it. But they haven't planned for this. After leaving Nicholas's office, I pulled up Instagram, liked their photo, left a comment full of hearts and exclamation points. Then I texted Catherine directly. Just saw the news. We have so much to catch up on. Lunch tomorrow? My treat. We can talk about the auction too. I have some ideas I think you'll love. Her response came quickly. Really? I mean, yes, absolutely. I could practically feel her relief through the phone, her certainty that she'd won. Good. Let her think that. Let them both think that. After all, the best exhibitions always tell a story, and this one was just getting started. Lunch with Catherine felt like performing surgery on myself without anesthesia. We sat at our usual cafe, the one where we'd spent countless Saturdays planning my wedding, and now I watched her stir her coffee with the same hands that had stolen my life. I can't tell you how relieved I am, she said, reaching across the table to squeeze my hand. I was so worried you'd be upset. I squeezed back, ignoring the bile rising in my throat. How could I be? You're my best friend. Her smile faltered slightly. About Thomas. You don't have to explain. I waved it away, the perfect picture of understanding. Sometimes these things just happen, right? She relaxed visibly, bought the performance completely. Of course she did. She'd never been able to tell when I was lying. Not like I could always tell with her. So, the auction, I said brightly. I was thinking about that Rothman piece you're featuring, the one with the hidden signature. Her eyes lit up. Yes! It's incredible, isn't it? The way he concealed his identity for years, painting under a different name. Until someone finally exposed the truth, I finished. Must have been quite the scandal when it all came out. Something flickered across her face. Awareness? Concern? But disappeared just as quickly. Actually, about the auction. We're making some changes to the donor list. Oh? Just restructuring some things. With the audit and everything? She trailed off, suddenly very interested in her salad. The audit. Of course. Thomas's preemptive strike. Anything I should know about? No, just boring administrative stuff. She brightened. But I'd love your help with the seating arrangements. You always had such a knack for knowing who should sit where. Like I'd had a knack for choosing friends, for choosing a fiancé. Speaking of seating arrangements, I said carefully, I noticed you're using Mitchell's for the wedding catering. Weren't they booked solid through September? Her fork clattered against her plate. How did you? Lucky guess. They're the best in town, after all. That's why I booked them originally. The silence stretched between us like a tripwire. Cadence, she started, but her phone buzzed. She glanced at it, and I caught Thomas's name on the screen before she quickly turned it face down. You should get that, I said softly. Might be important. Later, after she'd hurried away with barely concealed relief, I sat in my car and called Nadine. How'd it go? She asked. They're changing the donor list, trying to bury the evidence before the audit. Shit. A pause. Want me to ask around? I still have friends on the board. No. I started my car, watched Catherine's Mercedes disappear around the corner. I need you to do something else, something bigger. I outlined the plan Nicholas and I had developed. When I finished, the line was quiet. That's intense, Nadine finally said. Are you sure? They're using my vendors, Nadine. The ones I researched and booked. The ones who had to break their contracts with me when we postponed. How did they manage that? Another pause. You think Thomas used his position at the bank to pressure them? I think nothing about this is coincidence. I pulled out into traffic, heading toward the gallery. Will you help? You know I will. But Katie, what if this doesn't give you what you need? What if it just makes everything worse? I thought about Catherine's quick smiles, her casual possession of my life, about Thomas's name lighting up her phone. It can't get worse, I said. It can only get more honest. At the gallery, I found Grace waiting in my office. Mom called again, she said without preamble. Catherine invited her to the bridal shower next week. I sat heavily in my chair. Already? She's moving fast, like she's afraid if she slows down, everything will fall apart. Grace perched on my desk. Maybe we should let it. Just tell everyone the truth now. No. I pulled up my email, started typing. They want speed? Let's give them speed. What are you doing? Sending out invitations to a special preview night for the auction's centerpiece. I hit send with more force than necessary. The Rothman piece Catherine's so proud of. The fake one? The real one? I smiled grimly. The one I found this morning, hidden in our storage room. The one Catherine doesn't know about yet. Grace's eyes widened. How did you? Because unlike Catherine, I actually do my research. I know the real story behind that painting, and next week everyone else will too. My phone buzzed. Catherine, accepting the preview night invitation with a string of excited emojis. Perfect. Sometimes the best way to expose a fake isn't to call it out directly. Sometimes you just need to put the real thing right next to it and let people see the truth for themselves. The bridal shower invitation sat on my kitchen counter like a bomb waiting to detonate. Cream-colored cardstock, gold foil lettering, the same design I'd saved to my Pinterest board last year. You don't have to go, Grace said, watching me stare at it. No one would blame you. I do, though. I traced the embossed flowers with my fingertip. Because Catherine's getting sloppy. Did you notice the time on the invitation? Grace picked it up, frowning. 2 p.m., so? The preview night at the gallery starts at 3. She's scheduled them back to back. I smiled thinly. She's so focused on playing the blushing bride, she's forgetting to pay attention to the details. My phone chimed. Nicholas calling. We have a problem. he said without preamble. The real Rothman piece? Someone's trying to move it. The floor seemed to tilt beneath my feet. What do you mean, move it? A private buyer. Very generous offer, very rushed timeline. They want it before the auction. Catherine? Has to be. She must have figured out what we're planning. I closed my eyes, remembering her face at lunch. The flicker of awareness when I'd mentioned the painting. She'd known. Of course she'd known. Can they do it? Move it before the preview? Technically, yes, but... He paused. There might be a way to stop it. It's risky, though. Tell me. He outlined the plan. With each detail, my stomach twisted tighter. That's not just risky, Grace said when I explained it later. That's career suicide. If it goes wrong, then I lose my job. I shrugged. Better than letting them win. Is it? Really? She grabbed my arm. Katie, look at me. When was the last time you slept through the night? When was the last time you thought about anything except this? I pulled away. They're the ones who made it personal. And you're the one letting it consume you. She softened her voice. I ran into Thomas yesterday. My head snapped up. What? Where? At Gran's. He was dropping off her heart medication, like he always does. She watched me carefully. She still doesn't know, Katie, about any of it. She asked him how the wedding plans were going, and he just stood there, looking like he wanted to die. Good. Is it? Because he also looked like he wanted to tell her everything, like maybe he's not as comfortable with this as you think. Don't. My voice cracked. Don't try to make him the good guy here. I'm not, but maybe. My phone buzzed again. Nadine this time. It's happening, she said. Catherine just called an emergency meeting with the auction committee. Tomorrow morning. Tomorrow. Too soon. Unless... The bridal shower, I said slowly. It's at her mother's house, right? Yeah, why? Because while everyone's distracted with that, someone needs to be at the gallery. Someone with access to the secure storage room. I caught Grace's eye. Someone who knows exactly where to find proof of what they're trying to hide. The line went quiet. Then, tell me what you need. After hanging up, I turned to Grace. I need you to do something for me. Something I can't do myself. What? Go to the bridal shower. Keep Catherine busy. Make sure she stays there the whole time. She stared at me. You want me to help you break into the gallery? No. I want you to help me protect my career, my reputation, everything they're trying to take from me. I picked up the invitation, crumpled it in my fist. Will you? For a long moment, she said nothing. Then, one condition. After this, whatever happens, you get help. Real help. Because this isn't just about justice anymore, and you know it. I thought about Thomas at Gran's, delivering medication like nothing had changed. About Catherine using my wedding plans like a blueprint for her own happiness. Fine, I said. But first, we finish this. I pulled out my phone, typed a quick message to Catherine. Can't wait for the shower. BTW. Heard about the private buyer for the Rothman. Brilliant move. Much better than waiting for the auction. Less chance of surprises that way. Her response came quickly. What are you talking about? Oh, sorry, I wrote back. Was that not public yet? My mistake. See you tomorrow. I showed the exchange to Grace. Now we wait. For what? For Catherine to panic. For her to realize she's not the only one who knows how to play this game. I smiled, and it felt like breaking glass. For her to understand that some surprises can't be bought off or buried. My phone lit up with a call from Thomas. I let it ring. Tomorrow couldn't come soon enough. The gallery's security system beeped softly as I entered my code. 6:47 a.m. Hours before anyone else would arrive. The empty halls echoed with my footsteps as I made my way to the storage room, trying to ignore how much this felt like breaking and entering, despite having every legal right to be here. My phone buzzed. Grace. Catherine's already freaking out. Called Mom at dawn, asking if you seemed off lately. I smiled grimly, typing back, Perfect. Keep me posted. The storage room key felt heavy in my hand. One turn and there'd be no going back. I'd be crossing a line that separated professional integrity from personal vendetta. I wouldn't do that if I were you. I spun around. Nicholas stood in the doorway, looking grave. What are you doing here? Stopping you from making a massive mistake. He held up his phone. The board called. They're moving up the audit to today. My hand dropped from the key. That's not possible. The preview night has been canceled. Catherine just announced it. Cited technical difficulties with the venue. He stepped closer. They're not just covering their tracks anymore, Cadence. They're burning the whole trail. Then we have to move faster. The proof is right behind this door. Is it? He caught my arm. Or are you so focused on revenge that you're seeing evidence where there isn't any? I jerked away. I saw the lease agreement, the vendor contracts, the lease agreement that mysteriously disappeared from Thomas's laptop, the contracts no one else has seen. His voice softened. The wedding plans that might have changed naturally, even if they weren't trying to hurt you? Don't. My voice cracked. Don't try to make me doubt what I know. I'm trying to make you see what everyone else will see. A jealous ex going off the deep end. A professional woman letting personal drama destroy her career. He paused. Is that really the story you want to tell? My phone buzzed again. Grace. Catherine's mom just called. Said she found old emails between them from before your engagement. You need to see these. I showed Nicholas the message. Still think I'm imagining things? He read it, sighed heavily. Okay, but if we're doing this, we do it right. No breaking in, no stolen documents. We build a legal case step by step. There's no time. The audit will show exactly what they want it to show. He pulled out a folder. Unless we give them something they can't ignore. Something that makes the financial angle secondary. I opened the folder. Inside were printouts of emails, bank statements, text messages, a timeline stretching back over a year. How did you... Nadine's not the only one with board connections. He smiled grimly. And it turns out, I'm not the only one who's been watching Catherine's creative accounting. My hands shook as I read. The evidence was worse than I'd imagined. Better than I'd hoped. Why didn't you show me this before? Because you needed to be sure. About all of it. About what you're willing to lose. He took the folder back. The question is, are you ready for what happens next? Because this doesn't just expose them. It exposes everything. My phone lit up with a call from Thomas. For the first time in days, I answered. Don't do this, he said immediately. Whatever you're planning. Did you love me? I interrupted. Any of it. Was any of it real? The silence stretched so long, I thought he'd hung up. Yes, he finally said. That's what makes it worse. I closed my eyes. Worse for who, Thomas? Everyone. Catherine's not who you think she is. This whole thing, it's complicated. Actually, it's very simple. I looked at Nicholas, at the folder in his hands. It's about choices and consequences. Cadence, please. The preview night is canceled. I cut him off. But don't worry, I have something better planned. I hung up before he could respond. Turned to Nicholas. Whatever's in that folder, it goes public today. All of it. It'll burn bridges you can't rebuild. Good. I started walking toward my office. Some bridges should stay burned. My phone buzzed one last time. Grace again. Mom's sending the emails now. But Katie, there's something else. Something about Gran's medication. About why Thomas was really delivering it. I stopped walking. What do you mean? I think they've been using her to launder money. Through her prescriptions. And I think that's just the beginning. The gallery's lights hummed overhead. Somewhere, a clock ticked toward the audit. Toward Catherine's bridal shower. Toward whatever end we were all hurtling toward. Nicholas, I said quietly, how much room is left in that folder? He smiled. Not grimly this time. Dangerously. Plenty. The bridal shower was in full swing when I walked in. Pastel decorations, champagne flutes, perfectly arranged petite fours. Everything exactly as I would have planned it. Because, of course, Catherine had used my planning spreadsheet. She saw me immediately, face lighting up with practiced warmth. "Cadence! You made it!" "Wouldn't miss it." I hugged her, felt her stiffen slightly as I whispered, "We need to talk. Now." She pulled back, smile never wavering. "Of course! Let me just—" "Now, Catherine." Something in my voice must have reached her. She nodded, led me to the kitchen, away from the cheerful chatter and clinking glasses. "What's going on?" she asked once we were alone. "You're acting strange." I pulled out my phone, showed her the first email, watched her face drain of color. "Where did you get that?" "Gran's medication, Catherine? Really? You couldn't find another way to move the money?" She gripped the counter. "You don't understand." "I understand perfectly. The gallery funds, the fake invoices, using my grandmother's prescriptions to launder money. What I don't understand is why. It wasn't supposed to happen like this." Her voice cracked. "Thomas and we never meant to hurt you." "No? Then explain this." I showed her another email, one from 14 months ago, before my engagement, before everything. She read it, closed her eyes. "How much do you know?" Everything. The long game you played. How you pushed Thomas to propose to me, knowing it would give you access to the gallery's major donors. How you used my wedding planning to create the perfect cover for moving money." I stepped closer. "How you made me trust you completely, so I'd never see what was really happening." "Cadence!" "The audit starts in 20 minutes, I interrupted. "In that time, you have exactly one chance to make this right." A noise from the doorway made us both turn. Thomas stood there, face ashen. "It's over," he said quietly. "Nicholas just called. The board has everything." Catherine's champagne flute shattered on the floor. "What did you do?" "What you taught me to do." I smiled, though it felt like swallowing glass. I paid attention to the details. Footsteps in the hallway. Grace appeared, followed by two serious-looking men in suits. "Ms. Little?" one of them said. "We need you to come with us." Catherine's eyes darted between them, me, Thomas, looking for an escape route, always looking for an escape route. "Wait." Thomas stepped forward. "I can explain." "Can you explain Gran's medication?" I asked quietly. "Can you explain using my grandmother to commit fraud?" He flinched. Behind him, I heard gasps. Turned to see Catherine's mother in the doorway, other guests crowding behind her. "Catherine!" Her mother's voice shook. "What is she talking about?" But Catherine wasn't looking at her mother. She was looking at me, really looking, maybe for the first time. "You could have just exposed the gallery fraud," she said softly. "You didn't have to bring families into it." "No," I agreed. "But you did that first, didn't you?" The men in suits moved forward. Catherine straightened her spine, smoothed her dress. Always performing, even now. She hesitated. "Take care of Gran, okay? Make sure she gets her medicine. The real medicine." Something twisted in my chest. Even now, she was trying to manipulate me. Make me doubt. Make me feel guilty, not anymore. "Goodbye, Catherine." I walked out of the kitchen, past the shocked guests, past the perfect decorations and untouched petit fours. Grace followed me to my car. "You okay?" I leaned against the steering wheel. "Ask me tomorrow." "The board's meeting now. They'll probably need to talk to you." I know." I sat up, started the car. "But first, I need to see Gran. Tell her everything myself, before she hears it from someone else." "Want me to come?" I shook my head. "This one I need to do alone." As I drove away, I caught a glimpse in my rearview mirror. Catherine being led to a waiting car. Thomas watching helplessly from the doorway. The perfect couple, the perfect plan, perfectly destroyed. My phone buzzed. "Nicholas. Board wants to meet. You ready?" I thought about Catherine's face when she realized she'd lost. About Thomas's silence when confronted with the truth. About all the months I'd spent planning my own wedding, never suspecting I was helping them build their perfect crime. "Ready," I texted back. Because that's the thing about perfect plans, about perfect couples, about perfect anything. Look closely enough. Pay attention to the details, and you'll always find the cracks, the hidden signatures, the truth beneath the forgery. I turned toward Gran's house, toward whatever came next. Sometimes the hardest part isn't exposing the truth. It's living with it afterward. Gran's pearls caught the light as I lifted them from their velvet box. The same pearls Catherine had planned to wear down the aisle, before everything fell apart. "You should wear them," Gran said from her armchair. "They were meant for you anyway." I'm not sure I'm ready for that." I set the necklace back, careful with its weight. Like everything else these days, the board meeting had gone exactly as Nicholas predicted. Catherine's creative accounting had been just the tip of the iceberg. The fraud charges would take months to fully unravel. Thomas's bank was launching its own investigation. "Have you heard from them?" Gran asked, reading my mind the way she always could. "Catherine's lawyer called yesterday. She wants to make a deal." I moved to the window, watched autumn leaves scatter across the lawn. "She's willing to testify against Thomas." "And he? Wants to testify against her?" I laughed, but it came out hollow. They're still perfectly matched, even now. Gran was quiet for a moment. Then, "You never told me how you knew. About the medication scheme." I turned back to her. "You did. Those headaches you kept getting? They weren't from the heart medication. They were from whatever they were giving you instead." "Ah," she nodded slowly. "And the gallery funds?" Catherine got sloppy, started taking shortcuts. But mostly, I picked up a framed photo from the mantel. Me and Catherine at my engagement party, both laughing at something off camera. Mostly I just finally started paying attention to what was right in front of me. The doorbell rang. Grace, right on time. "Ready?" she asked when I opened the door. "Almost." I went back to Gran's chair, kissed her cheek. "You'll be okay?" "Better than okay. Nadine's coming over with that mystery novel she promised." She squeezed my hand. "Go. Do what you need to do." The gallery was quiet when we arrived. Most of the staff had taken early lunch, knowing what was coming, what I had to do. The Rothman piece hung exactly where Catherine had placed it. The fake one, not the real one, that was safely in police custody now, along with all the evidence of how they'd used it to move money through the gallery's accounts. "You don't have to do this yourself," Grace said softly. "Yes, I do." I started with the placard, removed Catherine's carefully crafted description, replaced it with the truth, about the forgery, about how it had been used, about everything. My phone buzzed. "Nicholas. Plea deals are official, both taking reduced sentences in exchange for full confession." I showed Grace the message. Guess neither of them could stand the thought of the other getting a better deal. Poetic justice. More like tragic irony. I stepped back, surveyed my work. They really did love each other, in their way. "And you? Are you okay?" I thought about the pearls in Gran's velvet box, about Catherine's final attempt at manipulation, trying to make me feel responsible for her choices, about Thomas's silence in that kitchen, heavy with things he'd never say. "I'm not okay," I said finally, "but I'm getting there." The gallery doors opened. The first visitors of the day, coming to see the exhibition Catherine had planned so carefully, the one that would now tell a very different story. "Ms. Howard?" My assistant appeared, tablet in hand. "The Times reporter is here. Ready for your statement?" I straightened my spine, checked my reflection in the glass. No more perfect bride, no more perfect friend, no more perfect anything. Just the truth, in all its messy glory. "Ready?" Grace touched my arm. "Want me to stay?" "No." I smiled, and for the first time in weeks, it felt real. I've got this, because that's the thing about betrayal, about love, about trust. They're not just things that happen to you, they're choices you make, again and again, until you finally learn to make different ones. I walked toward the reporter, toward whatever came next. Behind me, the fake Rothman hung like a reminder of what I'd almost lost, of what I'd found instead. Not closure. I was done believing in perfect endings, but something better, something real. The truth about art, about love, about life itself. Sometimes the most valuable pieces aren't the ones that look perfect from every angle. They're the ones that show their scars, their stories, their survival. And as I began to tell my story, the real story, I realized something Catherine and Thomas never had. Some things are worth more broken than perfect, and some truths are worth every crack they cause.
I stared at my reflection in the mirror, adjusting my blazer for the 100th time while my daughter Sasha twirled around the bathroom in her princess dress. The irony wasn't lost on me. Here I was, prepping for the biggest interview of my career, and my usually reliable babysitter had just texted to cancel. Single mom life at its finest. "Mommy, can I wear this to Aunt Livia's?" Sasha asked, her big brown eyes sparkling with hope. "Of course, sweetie," I smiled, though my stomach was in knots. I'm Violet, and at 32, I've learned that sometimes the universe forces you to make choices you'd rather avoid. Like calling my younger sister Livia for help. The doorbell chimed, and Sasha raced to answer it. "Aunt Livia!" "There's my favorite niece." Livia's voice carried that familiar sugar-sweet tone that always set my teeth on edge. She swept in wearing designer clothes that probably cost more than my monthly rent. "Thanks for doing this on such short notice," I said, gathering my interview materials. "I really appreciate it." "Oh, please." Livia waved her hand dismissively. "What are sisters for? Besides, Mom would kill me if I didn't help out her only grandchild." I bit back a response about how she'd canceled on us 3 times before. "Sasha's already had breakfast. There's lunch in the fridge, and emergency numbers are on the—" "Violet, relax," Livia interrupted, dropping her expensive handbag on my worn couch. "I've got this. It's not rocket science." "Right." I knelt down to hug Sasha. "Be good for Aunt Livia, okay? Mommy will be back before dinner." "Can we play dress up?" Sasha asked Livia, clutching her aunt's designer jeans. "Sure, sweetie. We'll have so much fun." Livia's smile didn't quite reach her eyes. I hesitated at the door, my hand lingering on the knob. Something felt off, but I couldn't put my finger on it. "Oh, and Livia? Please don't leave the apartment. Sasha's been fighting a cold." "God, you're such a worrywart," Livia laughed. "We'll be fine. Go ace that interview." As I walked to my car, my phone buzzed. It was Todd, my best friend and voice of reason. "You actually left Sasha with Livia?" His disbelief crackled through the speaker. "I didn't have a choice," I said, starting the engine. "Besides, she's family." "Yeah, the same family that borrowed your prom dress and returned it with wine stains. The same sister who—" I know. I cut him off. "But she's changed. Mom says she's really grown up since getting that job at the gallery." Todd snorted. "Your mom still thinks Livia's finger painting should be in the Louvre. It's just for a few hours," I insisted, pulling onto the highway. "What's the worst that could happen?" "With Livia? Do you want that list alphabetically or chronologically?" I laughed despite my anxiety. "I've got to focus on this interview. The promotion would mean everything. Better hours, better pay, maybe even a house with a yard for Sasha." "Just be careful," Todd said. "And call me after?" I promised I would, and hung up, trying to push away the nagging doubt in my gut. Through my rearview mirror, I could see my apartment building shrinking in the distance. The last thing I noticed was Livia's face at my living room window, phone pressed to her ear, watching me drive away. My keys felt heavy in my hand as I dropped them into my purse. The emergency cash I kept hidden in my bedroom drawer flashed through my mind. $2,000 saved over countless overtime shifts. But this was Livia, my little sister, the golden child who could do no wrong, at least in our parents' eyes. Still, as I merged onto the interstate, I couldn't shake the memory of last Christmas, when Mom's antique bracelet went missing during Livia's visit. Or the time my credit card showed mysterious charges after I'd let her crash on my couch for a weekend. Everyone had brushed it off. Mom said I was being paranoid. Dad suggested I was just jealous of Livia's success. But as I pulled into the parking lot of the office building where my interview awaited, I sent up a silent prayer that I was wrong about the unease churning in my stomach. That for once, Livia would prove everyone right about her being the perfect, responsible sister she pretended to be. If only I'd known then what was happening back at my apartment, I would have turned that car around so fast. But hindsight, as they say, is 20/20, and some lessons you have to learn the hard way. The interview had gone perfectly. I practically floated up the stairs to my apartment, already imagining how I'd celebrate with Sasha. Maybe ice cream or that new Disney movie she'd been begging to see. But the moment I opened my door, my heart stopped. Sasha. My voice echoed through the eerily quiet apartment. Livia? A small sniffle came from the direction of Sasha's room. I found her curled up on her bed, still in her princess dress, now stained with what looked like chocolate ice cream. Baby, what's wrong? Where's Aunt Livia? She left, Sasha whispered, wiping her nose with her sleeve. A long time ago. She said she'd be right back, but... The room spun. She left you alone? For how long? After lunch. Her friend called, and she said she had to go shopping. Sasha's lower lip trembled. I was scared, Mommy. I pulled her into my arms, fury building in my chest. It's okay, baby. You're safe now. Did you eat dinner? She shook her head. I didn't want to use the stove by myself. My 5-year-old had more sense than my 28-year-old sister. I kissed Sasha's forehead and tried to keep my voice steady. Let's get you something to eat. And then... The words died in my throat as I walked into the living room. Really looked at it this time. My laptop was missing from the coffee table. The vintage vase Mom had given me for my birthday. Gone. With trembling hands, I rushed to my bedroom. The dresser drawer was open, the false bottom displaced. My emergency cash was gone. No, no, no. I yanked open my jewelry box. Empty. Even the pearl necklace Grandma had left me. My phone buzzed. A text from Livia. Sorry, sis. Had an emergency. Hope the interview went well. I called her immediately. Straight to voicemail. You've reached Livia. Leave some love. Where the hell are you? I snarled into the phone. You left my daughter alone? And you stole from me? Answer your damn phone. I called Todd next, my hands shaking so badly I could barely hold the phone. She did what? His voice cracked with disbelief. I can't even... I was hyperventilating. She left Sasha alone for hours. Hours, Todd, and she took everything. I'm coming over. Have you called the police? Not yet. God, what will Mom and Dad say? Screw what they say. This isn't about their precious golden child anymore. She left a 5-year-old alone and robbed you blind. Call the cops. Now. After hanging up, I found Sasha in the kitchen, attempting to make a sandwich. My heart broke all over again. Baby, I'm so sorry, I whispered, taking over sandwich duty. This is all my fault. Is Aunt Livia in trouble? Yes, sweetie. Big trouble. As if on cue, something crinkled under my foot. A receipt, partially hidden under the fridge. I picked it up. Nordstrom, time-stamped 3 hours ago. Over $2,000 in purchases. Exactly the amount from my emergency fund. My phone buzzed again. Mom. Violet, why are you calling your sister's phone nonstop? She just told me she had to leave Sasha with you early because of food poisoning. Poor thing's been sick all afternoon. The sandwich knife clattered into the sink. What? She's resting at our house now. Really, Violet, you should be more understanding. She did you a favor? A favor? I laughed, a harsh, bitter sound. Mom, she abandoned my daughter. Alone. For hours. And she stole from me. Silence. Then, don't be ridiculous. Livia would never... Check her shopping bags, Mom. The ones she probably brought over. Check the timestamps on the receipts. Better yet, Ask her where she got the money for her shopping spree. You're just jealous, Mom snapped. You've always been jealous of your sister's success. I'm sure this is all a misunderstanding. I hung up. Sasha was watching me with wide eyes, her sandwich forgotten. Mommy, are you crying? I touched my cheek. Sure enough, it was wet. But these weren't sad tears anymore. They were angry ones. My phone buzzed one final time. A social media notification. Livia had just posted a photo of herself at some rooftop bar, sporting a new designer outfit, tagged with, "Treating myself, blessed life." That's when I remembered the security camera I'd installed last month, after a string of break-ins in the building. The one pointed right at my living room, recording 24/7 to my cloud storage. Todd? I called him back, my voice steel-edged. Before you come over, I need you to stop and get me a USB drive. A big one. I've got some footage to download. The golden child's reign was about to end, and I was going to be the one holding the match that burned her crown. Todd arrived 30 minutes later, finding me at my kitchen table with my backup laptop. Sasha finally asleep in her room after the emotional day. He placed a USB drive and a pint of ice cream in front of me. Thought you might need both, he said, pulling up a chair. I filed the police report, I said, logging into my cloud storage. But we both know how this will play out. Mom and Dad will defend her, probably offer to pay me back themselves, and Livia will cry her way out of consequences. Again. Unless, Todd gestured to my laptop, unless I have proof. I clicked on today's footage. Concrete, undeniable proof. The security camera's view filled the screen. There was Livia, checking her phone the moment I left. She made a call immediately. Hey, babe. Her voice crackled through the speakers. She's gone. Yeah. I know where she keeps it. No, the kid won't be a problem. Todd's hand clenched into a fist. Jesus. We watched as Livia rummaged through my bedroom, emerging triumphant with the cash. She stuffed it into her designer purse, then systematically went through the apartment, collecting my valuables. Aunt Livia? Sasha's voice came through clearly. I'm hungry. Here's some money, sweetie. Order a pizza. Livia tossed a 20 on the table, out of Sasha's reach. But Mommy says I'm not supposed to answer the door when... Then make a sandwich or something. I've got to run. Don't tell your mom, okay? It'll be our little secret. The footage showed Livia leaving, the door clicking behind her. Sasha stood in the middle of the living room, looking lost. I'm going to be sick, I muttered. Keep watching, Todd said grimly. 3 hours of footage showed Sasha trying to entertain herself, getting increasingly anxious as time passed. She tried calling Livia multiple times from the landline. No answer. I've seen enough. I stopped the playback, my hands trembling with rage. My phone lit up with a text from Khalil, my former colleague. Hey, heard about the interview. Drinks to celebrate? Can you come over instead? I texted back. Need your expertise on something. Khalil arrived 20 minutes later, his IT background proving invaluable as he helped me download and format the footage. We should make copies, he suggested, his fingers flying over the keyboard. Multiple formats, stored in different places. Cloud backup, USB drives, everything. You think she'll try to delete it? If she's smart. He glanced at me. But from what you've told me, she's not used to covering her tracks. She's used to getting away with things. My phone buzzed again. Dad this time. Violet, this has gone too far, he started without preamble. Your mother is beside herself. Livia's crying her eyes out. Is she? I cut in. Is she crying about abandoning her niece? About stealing from her sister? Or is she crying because she finally got caught? She says she had an emergency. Put her on the phone. A pause, then Livia's voice, trembling perfectly. Vi, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to be gone so long. I got sick, and then my phone died. Save it. I watched Khalil give me a thumbs up as he finished backing up the footage. How was the rooftop bar, Livia? Must have been fun, spending my emergency fund on cocktails. What? I
I don't know what you're talking about. Check your Instagram. Or should I do it for you? Show Mom and Dad the timestamps? Better yet, should I show them the security footage of you robbing me blind and abandoning my daughter? Silence. That's right, sis. Every moment. In high definition. With audio.
You were recording me? Her voice turned sharp, indignant. That's illegal. Actually, Khalil called out, loud enough for her to hear. Security cameras in private residences are perfectly legal in this state, especially when there's clear signage in the building entrance. More silence. Then Dad's voice returned. Violet, let's discuss this as a family. Come over tomorrow. We can sort this out. Sure, I said, surprising them both. Family meeting sounds perfect. I'll bring snacks. Maybe we can watch a movie together. I hung up before they could respond. You're really going to show them? Todd asked. Every second. I closed my laptop. They want to keep pretending she's perfect? Fine. Let them watch their perfect daughter in action. Khalil handed me a USB drive. It's all backed up. But Violet, are you sure about this? Family drama like this? Once it's out there? She left my daughter alone, I said quietly. Scared and hungry. She stole the money I saved for emergencies. For Sasha's emergencies. She's not getting away with it this time. I looked at the USB drive in my hand, thinking of all the times I'd stayed quiet. All the times I'd let Livia's behavior slide to keep the peace. Tomorrow, I said, the golden child loses her shine. Todd and Khalil exchanged glances, but I didn't care. For the first time in years, I felt powerful. In control. Let them all see who Livia really was. Let them try to explain this away. The truth was about to have its day. The next morning I dropped Sasha at her friend Emma's house for a playdate. No way was I exposing her to the incoming family drama. As I pulled into my parents' driveway, Khalil's car was already there.
Moral support, he said, falling into step beside me. Plus, I figured they might need someone to explain the technical aspects of the footage. You know, in case they try to claim it's fake. My hand tightened around the USB drive in my pocket. They would try that, wouldn't they? Before I could ring the doorbell, Mom threw the door open. Her face was pinched with worry, but her voice was pure steel. Violet, I hope you're ready to apologize to your sister.
Oh, I'm ready for something all right. I walked past her into the living room. Dad sat in his usual armchair, while Livia perched on the couch looking like a martyred saint in an expensive white dress. Her eyes were red-rimmed, probably spent all morning practicing her crying routine. Who's this? Dad gestured to Khalil. IT specialist, Khalil said smoothly, setting up his laptop. I'm here to verify the authenticity of the security footage. Livia's face went chalk white. This is ridiculous, Mom huffed. We don't need to. Actually, we do. I pulled out the USB drive. Because I'm done pretending. Done watching everyone make excuses for her. Done being the bad guy for calling out her behavior. Vi, please, Livia whispered, tears already forming. I said I was sorry. Sorry you got caught, you mean? I nodded to Khalil, who connected his laptop to the TV. Let's watch what sorry looks like. The footage started playing. The room fell silent, except for the audio from the TV. We all watched Livia's phone call, her methodical theft, her casual abandonment of Sasha. Mom's hand flew to her mouth when she saw the money being stolen. Dad's face grew darker with each passing minute. But it was the footage of Sasha, alone and scared, that finally broke them. Turn it off, Dad growled after watching Sasha try to call Livia for the third time. I've seen enough, but there's 3 more hours. I said turn it off. He rounded on Livia. How could you? She's 5 years old. Livia burst into tears. Real ones this time. I was going to come right back. But then Jessica called about this amazing sale. A sale? Mom's voice cracked.
You left your niece alone for a sale? And stole my emergency fund to shop with, I added. Don't forget that part. I was going to pay it back. Livia stood up, mascara running. Vi's always so uptight about money, and I knew she wouldn't understand. Understand what? I stepped closer. Understand that you're a thief? That you're so selfish you'd put my daughter in danger for a shopping spree? That's not fair. I'm not… Not what? Not responsible? Not trustworthy? Not the perfect daughter everyone thinks you are? Violet, Mom started, but Dad held up his hand. No, Margaret. Not this time. He turned to Livia. Where's the money? I spent it. And the jewelry? Livia's eyes darted to her oversized purse. Dad snatched it before she could stop him, dumping the contents onto the coffee table. Out tumbled my grandmother's pearls, along with other pieces I'd thought were gone forever. You brought them here? I stared at her. Were you going to hide them in Mom's jewelry box? Make me think I'd lost them? Her silence was answer enough. The police report's already filed, I said quietly. But I'm willing to drop it if you pay me back. Every cent. And you stay away from my daughter. You can't do that, Livia looked wildly at our parents. Mom! Dad! Tell her she can't. Can't what? Dad's voice was ice. Can't protect her child? Can't demand justice for theft? What exactly can't she do, Livia? My phone buzzed. A text from Todd. How's it going? Need backup? It's done, I typed back. The crown's not just tarnished. It's shattered. Looking up, I watched my sister crumple onto the couch, her perfect facade finally broken. Mom had sunk into Dad's chair, aging years in minutes. Dad was writing a check with shaking hands. This covers the cash, he said, holding it out to me. We'll sell her car for the rest. Daddy, no! Livia wailed. Enough! His shout made us all jump. You're 28 years old, Livia. It's time you learned actions have consequences. I took the check, then gathered my grandmother's pearls from the table. Khalil quietly packed up his laptop. I'll see myself out, I said, pausing at the door. Oh, and Livia? Next time you're short on cash, try getting a job. It's what the rest of us do. The door closed on her fresh sobs. But for once, I didn't feel guilty. Some lessons have to hurt to be learned, and this one was long overdue. 3 days passed in a blur of missed calls and emotional text messages from Mom. Dad had sold Livia's car, as promised, but the aftermath was messier than I'd expected. I was picking up Sasha from school when my phone buzzed with yet another family bombshell. Have you seen Livia's Facebook post? Todd's voice was tense. I blocked her on everything. I buckled Sasha into her car seat. Why? She's playing victim. Hard. Claims you set her up, installed the camera to trap her, that you're trying to ruin her life because you're jealous. Your mom's commenting in support. My hands tightened on the steering wheel. Of course she is. There's more. She's saying you've always tried to turn the family against her, that you're using Sasha to manipulate everyone. Using my daughter? The words came out as a snarl. The one she abandoned? Mommy? Sasha's voice came from the back seat. Are you mad? I forced a smile into the rearview mirror. No, baby. Just grown-up stuff. When we got home, Khalil was waiting outside my apartment. You've got company, he warned. Your mom's been here for 20 minutes. Great. Just great. Sasha, honey, why don't you go with Uncle Khalil to get ice cream? I handed him my keys. Use the back entrance. Once they were gone, I climbed the stairs to find Mom pacing outside my door. Finally! She rushed toward me. We need to talk about this vendetta against your sister. Vendetta? I unlocked my door, letting her follow me inside. You mean holding her accountable? She's devastated. The car was her independence, and now? My emergency fund was Sasha's safety net, I cut in. But Livia didn't care about that when she stole it, did she? She made a mistake. No, Mom. A mistake is forgetting to return a phone call. A mistake is running a red light. What Livia did was a choice. Multiple choices, actually. All of them selfish. All of them cruel. Mom sank onto my couch. She's talking about moving away. Says she can't handle the family tension. You mean she can't handle consequences? Why are you being so hard on her? I pulled up Livia's Facebook post on my phone and thrust it at her. Why are you defending this? She's lying about me, about the situation, and you're supporting it. Mom read the post, her face paling. She's just hurt. Hurt? I'll tell you about hurt. I pulled up the security footage on my TV. Watch it again. Watch your granddaughter spend hours alone, scared, calling for help that never came. That's hurt, Mom. The footage played. This time, Mom didn't look away. She could have been injured, I continued. She could have tried to cook something and started a fire. A stranger could have come to the door. Do you understand what could have happened? Tears rolled down Mom's cheeks. I don't know how we got here. We got here because you and Dad never said no to her. Because she never had to face consequences. Because it was easier to believe her lies than admit she wasn't perfect. My phone buzzed with a text from Todd. Livia's live on Instagram, crying about family betrayal. Comments are getting ugly. Let her cry, I said aloud. Let her post. Let her play victim. The truth is already out there. Mom stood up, wringing her hands. What do you want me to do? Stop enabling her. Stop defending her. Let her face reality for once in her life. And if she really does leave, then she leaves. But she doesn't get to rewrite history on her way out. She doesn't get to make me the villain in her story. A key turned in the lock. Khalil and Sasha returning with ice cream. Mom quickly wiped her eyes. Grandma! Sasha ran to her, chocolate already smeared on her face. Want some ice cream? Mom hugged her tight, too tight. No, sweetheart. Grandma needs to go home and think about some things. At the door, she paused. Violet? I'm sorry. Not just for today, but for a lot of things. After she left, Khalil showed me his phone. Livia's Instagram live had ended, but the comments remained. People weren't buying her story. Former classmates, old co-workers, they were sharing their own experiences with her manipulation. The truth has a way of coming out, he said quietly. I watched Sasha happily eating her ice cream, safe and loved, and completely unaware of the family drama swirling around her. That's how it should be. She deserved better than what Livia had done. Better than what my parents had enabled. Let Livia post what she wants, I said. The security footage doesn't lie, and neither do her actions. Sometimes the best revenge is just letting someone's true colors show. And show they had, in vivid, undeniable detail. A week later, my phone lit up with the news I'd been waiting for. I got the promotion. As I sat at my desk reading the offer letter, another email popped up. From Dad. Family dinner tonight. Non-negotiable. Your sister's making an announcement. My stomach clenched. I called Todd immediately. She's probably announcing she's moving to Paris or something equally dramatic, he said. Whatever it is, I'm not going alone. You free tonight? Wouldn't miss it. Want me to bring popcorn? I arrived at my parents' house with Todd and Khalil flanking me like bodyguards. Sasha was at a sleepover. I wasn't taking chances with family drama tonight. Livia's car was gone from the driveway, replaced by a beat-up Honda Civic. The sight gave me a grim satisfaction. Mom opened the door, her smile strained. Violet, I didn't know you were bringing guests. Support system, I said, walking past her. Since Livia brought her flying monkeys last time, the living room was tense. Dad sat in his usual chair, looking tired. Livia perched on the couch, wearing significantly less expensive clothes than usual, her designer bag replaced by a canvas tote. Really? She snapped when she saw Todd and Khalil. You brought backup? Witnesses, Todd corrected cheerfully. Hi, Mr. and Mrs. M. Dinner was awkward. Mom's usually perfect pot roast was overcooked, and nobody seemed interested in small talk. Finally, Dad cleared his throat. Livia, you said you had something to tell us? She straightened up, hands clasped dramatically in her lap. Yes, I've been doing a lot of thinking about everything that happened. You mean everything you did, I muttered. Todd kicked me under the table. I've started therapy, Livia continued, ignoring me. And I've realized some things about myself, about my behavior patterns. Mom beamed. That's wonderful, sweetheart. I'm also... Livia took a deep breath. I'm moving out of my apartment, into a shared house with roommates. It's all I can afford now, thanks to certain people. Her eyes shot daggers at me. Thanks to your own actions, Dad corrected firmly. Continue. Right. Well, she shifted uncomfortably. Part of my therapy is making amends. So, I'm sorry, Violet, for taking the money and the jewelry and leaving Sasha alone. It was wrong. The words sounded rehearsed, empty. Before I could respond, she pulled an envelope from her tote. Here's the first payment. I got a job at a coffee shop. It's not much, but I'll pay back everything. Eventually. I opened the envelope. $200. A fraction of what she'd stolen. How noble, I said flatly. Is this the part where we all hug and pretend everything's fine? Violet, Mom warned. No, let her speak, Dad interrupted. She has the right. You're damn right I do. I stood up, hands pressed against the table. You want to make amends? Start by taking down those lying social media posts. Admit publicly what you did. Stop playing victim while painting me as the villain. Those posts are my truth, Livia shot back. My feelings are valid. Your feelings? I laughed incredulously. What about Sasha's feelings? Want to hear the nightmares she's had? How she's afraid to be alone now? Livia's face crumpled. That's not fair. I'm trying here. Trying to save face, maybe. Khalil spoke up quietly. Real remorse doesn't come with a social media campaign. Nobody asked you, Livia snapped. Actually, Dad said, he's right. Taking responsibility means accepting the full consequences, Livia, including damage to your reputation. But no buts. Dad's voice was firm. If you're serious about making amends, start with the truth. All of it. Silence fell over the table. Livia's hands trembled as she pulled out her phone. We all watched as she navigated to her social media accounts. Fine, she whispered, and began typing. Moments later, our phones buzzed with a notification. Her new post was simple. Stark. I need to correct my previous statements. I stole from my sister and abandoned my niece. The security footage was real. My actions were inexcusable. I'm sorry for lying and trying to shift blame. I'm getting help and working to make things right. Now delete the other posts, I said. One by one, her previous accusations disappeared. Happy now? She asked bitterly. No, I replied honestly. But it's a start. Mom tried to salvage the evening with dessert, but I'd lost my appetite. As we left, Dad pulled me aside. She's trying, he said softly. Is she? Or is she just trying to repair her image? He sighed. Time will tell. But Violet, I'm proud of you. For standing your ground. For demanding better. I hugged him briefly, then joined Todd and Khalil outside. Well, Todd said as we walked to our cars. That was a performance, I finished. But at least now everyone knows which version is real. The truth was out there, permanently. Whether Livia's remorse was genuine or not, she couldn't hide from it anymore. And neither could anyone else. 2 weeks after the dinner, I was helping Sasha with her homework when someone knocked on our apartment door. Through the peephole, I saw Livia, wearing a coffee shop uniform, looking nothing like her former polished self. "What do you want?" I called through the door. "To talk. Please, Vi. 5 minutes." I opened the door but blocked the entrance. "Talk." She held out another envelope. "This week's payment. Plus," she pulled something else from her bag. "Sasha's baby book. I found it when I was packing up my apartment. I took it years ago because I was jealous of you being a mom, of how Dad looked at Sasha." My hand shook as I took the worn pink album. "You stole her baby book?" "I told you. I'm trying to make things right." Her voice cracked. Can I see her?" "No. Vi, please. You lost that privilege when you left her alone." I clutched the baby book tighter. "Actions have consequences, remember?" "But I'm in therapy. I'm working a real job, living with roommates, paying you back. Doing the bare minimum doesn't make you a hero, Livia." "Is that Aunt Livia?" Sasha's small voice came from behind me. Before I could stop her, she squeezed past me to the doorway. Livia's face lit up, but Sasha stepped back, pressing against my legs. "You left me alone," Sasha said quietly. Livia knelt down. "I know, sweetie. I'm so sorry. I was scared. I was wrong, very wrong, but I'm trying to be better. Why did you take Mommy's money?" The simple question seemed to hit Livia harder than any adult confrontation. She sat back on her heels, mascara starting to run. Because I was selfish and stupid and a very bad aunt." "And my necklace," I added, "the one from Grandma?" "Because I wanted what you had." Livia's voice was barely a whisper. "Your strength, your independence, your daughter's love. I thought if I took your things, I'd somehow take your life too." "That's not how it works," Sasha said, with all the wisdom of a 5-year-old. "You can't take people's lives. You have to make your own." Livia's sob echoed in the hallway. "When did you get so smart?" "Mommy teaches me things, like how to be brave and how to tell the truth." I pulled Sasha closer, protective and proud. Can I show you something?" Livia pulled out her phone, hands trembling. She pulled up a website, her new blog. The latest post was titled, "My Journey to Rock Bottom, How I Lost My Family's Trust." "I'm writing about everything," she said. "The real story. No more lies, no more excuses. Just truth." I scrolled through the post. It was raw, honest, ugly in its self-reflection. She'd included screenshots of her previous social media lies, followed by detailed corrections. "Mom and Dad haven't seen it yet," she continued. "I wanted you to see it first, because you deserve the truth before anyone else got it." My phone buzzed. A text from Todd. "Check your email, now." I opened my inbox to find a forwarded message from my company's HR department. Livia had sent them a long email, explaining how she'd almost sabotaged my promotion by spreading lies, apologizing for any damage to my reputation. "I sent those to every place I badmouthed you," Livia said quietly. "Your gym, Sasha's school, everywhere. I'm owning all of it." "Why now?" "Because my therapist said healing starts with honesty, and because," she looked at Sasha, "because I want to be worthy of being her aunt someday." Sasha tugged at my sleeve. "Mommy, can we show Aunt Livia my new dance? The one from class?" I hesitated, studying my sister's face. The designer makeup was gone, replaced by exhaustion and something else. Humility, maybe. Real humility, not the performed kind. 5 minutes, I said finally. "In the living room, where I can see you both." Livia's smile was watery but genuine. "Thank you." As Sasha excitedly pulled her aunt inside, chattering about dance class, I sent a quick text to Dad. "Check Livia's blog. I think she might be actually changing." His response came quickly. "Actions speak louder than words, but words are a start." I watched Sasha demonstrate her dance moves, Livia clapping with genuine enthusiasm. The sight stirred complicated emotions: hope, wariness, a reluctant softening. "Again!" Sasha demanded, and Livia laughed. A real laugh, not her usual practice tinkle. Maybe Dad was right. Words were just a start. But for the first time since this all began, it felt like an honest one. The autumn wind scattered leaves across my parents' backyard as I watched Sasha help Dad rake them into piles. Inside, the sounds of dinner preparation filled the kitchen, where Mom was teaching Livia how to make Grandma's secret recipe stuffing. "First time she's trusted Livia with that recipe," Todd remarked, joining me at the window. "Progress?" "Small steps." I handed him a mug of coffee. "But real ones." Livia had stuck to her word over the past months. Weekly payments from her coffee shop job, consistent therapy sessions, honest blog posts about her journey. She'd even started a support group for other people working to rebuild family trust. The doorbell rang, Khalil arriving with his famous pecan pie. As he set it on the counter, Livia looked up from her stuffing duties. "Hey," she said softly. I read your comment on my latest blog post about enabling behavior and family dynamics. It helped." "Good," Khalil replied. "Because you've got a lot of readers now. People need to hear this stuff." "Speaking of hearing things," Mom interjected, "Violet, tell them your news." I smiled, fingering the business card in my pocket. The promotion came with an unexpected bonus. They're starting a new department, and they want me to head it. "That's amazing." Livia's genuine enthusiasm still caught me off guard sometimes. "Wait, isn't that what you always wanted? Leading your own team?" "It is." I watched her carefully. No flash of jealousy, no subtle undermining, just pride and excitement. "Mommy!" Sasha burst through the back door, leaves in her hair. "Can Aunt Livia help me with my science project tomorrow? She knows all about plants from the coffee shop's garden program." I caught Livia's hopeful glance. She hadn't asked to be alone with Sasha since that day, respecting my boundaries without complaint. "How about we all work on it together?" I suggested. After Aunt Livia's shift, Livia's eyes welled up, but she quickly turned back to the stuffing. Dad came in, brushing leaves from his jacket. "Found something while raking," he said, pulling out a tarnished tiara, Livia's old Halloween costume crown. "Remember this?" "The golden child's crown," I said without thinking. The kitchen went silent. Livia stared at the tiara, then slowly picked it up. "I was never golden," she said quietly. "Just really good at faking it, and really scared of being seen for who I really was." She handed the tiara to Sasha. "Here, sweetie, for your dress-up box." "But it's yours," Sasha said confused. "Not anymore. I don't need crowns or designer clothes or other people's things to feel special." Livia smiled at me. "Sometimes you have to lose everything to find yourself." "Deep thoughts from the coffee shop philosopher," Todd teased, but kindly. "Hey, you should see the tips I get when customers read my blog on their laptops," Livia laughed. "Turns out authenticity pays better than pretense." Mom wiped her hands on her apron. "Dinner's almost ready. Violet, will you help me set the table?" As we laid out plates and silverware, Mom touched my arm. "I'm sorry I didn't see it sooner. The damage we did by playing favorites." "Mom?" "No, let me finish." Watching Livia now, really watching her, I see how our enabling hurt both of you. But seeing you two heal, watching you set boundaries while still leaving room for growth. She squeezed my hand. "You taught us all something about real love." The doorbell rang again. This time it was my old babysitter, coming to return a book she'd borrowed. Livia immediately went to apologize for taking her job that day, launching into a conversation about responsibility and growth. "She does that a lot now," Sasha observed, helping me fold napkins. "Says sorry to people. Is that good or bad?" "Good, because she means it." Sasha arranged the napkins carefully. "And she doesn't try to be perfect anymore. She's just Aunt Livia." From the kitchen came laughter. Livia had apparently spilled stuffing on her coffee shop uniform. Instead of crying about designer clothes ruined, she was joking about adding stuffing barista to her resume. "Dinner's ready," Mom called. "Everyone wash up." As we gathered around the table, family, friends, and reformed sisters, I realized something. The story wasn't about revenge anymore. It wasn't even about justice. It was about growth, about the painful, beautiful process of becoming real. Livia caught my eye across the table and mouthed, "Thank you." Not for forgiveness or acceptance, but for something harder, the chance to earn back trust, one honest moment at a time. I nodded, passing her the stuffing she'd helped make. Sometimes the best endings aren't about perfect resolution, but about finding the courage to write a new story together. Even if that story starts with a security camera and a stolen emergency fund. Even if it takes losing a crown to find your true worth.